and I'm with you too. You see how those nations take on the colonialist capitalist system, right? But and
Mm-hmm.
then you look at how America treats people who tries to come do something other than that capitalist system, like Saddam Hussein, right? Now, Saddam Hussein, right? Had he had they won the Iraq War, I think he would own, or at least those people would own like shit, like 40% of the world's oil reserve, I guess, right? Uh, but what his idea was, and this is just, it could be true or not. I can't get to the bottom of whether it's true or not, right? But it sounds like he wanted to give the oil to the people. You know what I mean? He wanted that to be state-owned oil that would bring revenue to the state. You know what I'm saying? Like for the basically a kind of a socialist communist type deal. I'm guessing. You know what I mean? As far as the oil, as far as those resources and shit like that, right? And you see how America goes in and basically makes Saddam out to be the worst guy on that with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got something else with it. And that would have showed the world that the threat of him doing something else like what he was trying to do would have showed the world how it's really supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if anybody know him a lot about Saddam Hussein or whatever, but like, I think they was labeling him as a communist socialist guy too.
Their main thing was the whole weapons of destruction thing. I don't think the angle of like their type of governance was what they pushed to, as the selling point to the public to go over there. You feel what I'm saying? From what I remember, like it wasn't like, oh, they're communist, socialists, and they taking advantage of the people. We got to go over there and spread democracy. I don't think that was the main thing. The main thing was this dude got weapons that could destroy all of us. You got to go get them.
No, but you got to understand that was a lie. So it was a when you know that he never had the capability of producing weapons of mass destruction, right? Then you got to say like, well, what was the angle for real? You know what I mean? What was the
Yeah, it was
angle
the,
for real, bro?
it was the resources, the oil. But what I'm saying is the how they sold it to the public, because you got to sell wars to your constituents in order to enact those wars. You feel me?
Right? Yeah, no
So
doubt.
the
Yeah.
yeah, so the way how they sold it wasn't the we're going to spread democracy to these evil communist angle. It was the weapons of mass destruction angle.
Oh yeah. That's the way
Yeah.
they sold it. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I understand the way they got us over there and into the war. I'm saying like, what do you think Saddam was actually trying to do with the oil? Because like I said, he was. I don't know if it was like he was going to own quite a bit of the oil as far as the world's oil. I think it's somewhere like 30-40% or something like that. That's a lot of fucking power for somebody. And as far as I understand, like, yeah, he was thinking about that was state-owned oil, right? The people's oil, and it was going
Hmm.
to be used to better off, the Iraqi people,
Right,
and
right.
the Kuwaiti people or whatever. Iraqi, Kuwait, I guess it's the same place, but yeah. So, I just think, kind of like what Chef was saying, it's always it's always a threat to the Western world when you have different people doing different things. So, like, is that kind of like I would think like that would kind of deter like those African countries from doing things like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Like
no
when,
doubt, no doubt.
yeah,
Like you see, the Sahel coalition right now. That's why you see them clicking up because They know how them people play, and it's not just America. The West in general, like
Hmm.
they play, they play ball for real, and they don't believe in fair play and nah.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll get you up out of here too, quick. You know what I'm talking about? Like off the planet.
Hmm. Oh,
So yeah,
oh, no doubt, no doubt. So, and they did that with Iran too. They like, yo, they producing weapons of mass destruction, but it's like, bro, like the whole world that check up on that shit already said they ain't doing that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just kind of what they do to get themselves into a war. But I think them countries in Africa, right? I think they need to go ahead. Somebody got to die. You know that
plenty done
somebody
died.
got to somebody got to die
Gaddafi,
for the whole world. No, listen,
Sankara,
for the world, though. I'm saying for the world, though, right? Somebody got to die for the world to start to move ahead, right? And if them
okay.
African countries, if them African countries don't decide, like, yo, we gotta, in some kind of way, we gotta be the ones pulling this shit out of the ground. We gotta be the ones refining this shit. And the countries that's producing or refining or stockpiling these reserves, the country's people should benefit off of that.
Oh
And
yeah,
to
no
get
doubt
to that,
about it.
and to get to that place, Haskell, some Africans gonna have to die.
Yeah, but
Africans is gonna have to die.
that's what the that whole Sahel alliance is about. You know what I'm saying? You already see
Mhm.
what's the name, the guy in Mali and Traore, they both have control over the majority of their gold mines, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they training their people on how to refine it, and so yeah, they're moving in that direction. But
Hmm.
I know in these discussions it could come off as excuses, but just understand that the whole time them people doing that, it's Western nations are continuously plotting right now as we speak. Like whether it be espionage, uh,
No, but
ec-
see, I think
it- it-
not to cut you off though, Hazel. I apologize, but I think more to Sheffrin's point is I like what they've been waiting on though. I mean,
they
they done
haven't
had
been they
100 years.
haven't been waiting.
It's
They've
100
been
years that like they motherfuckers done been out of colonization for 50 and 100 years, right? So like
Mhm.
now it's taking too long. America was
Nah,
built in 150 years.
No, but Corey, they've always been fighting. For the last
right.
50 years, they've been fighting. And they've been undermined for the last 50 years. Every one of those countries, you can see either a coup, undermining the political system, bribery. They have been fighting. But every one step they make forward is two step backward because they have been undermining. And then you say somebody has to die. You made that statement.
Yeah.
But think about it this way, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to send your son? Because it's not only Africans are going to die, because the West is going to send their soldiers. Are you willing
Mm-hmm.
to sacrifice your son also? You have to
Right.
ask yourself that question, right?
Yeah. And
America
so
has
somebody
been.
got
Do you
to.
don't think that America was being undermined? You know, in the beginning, like you don't think that England and France. Just look at the document. They
All right.
was
But I
back
understand
under.
what you're saying,
You dig what I'm
Shepard.
saying?
Shepard,
There was
I
always
under-
like, yeah, like yo, you gotta figure that shit the fuck out.
no,
You
no, no.
got to.
No,
You got
let's
to.
be honest. Let's be honest. America had powerful allies. During the War of Independence, America, Benjamin Franklin went to France. He went to France. And those nice Jews in Normandy supplied a whole ton load of money to Benjamin Franklin so he could buy French arms, which was some of the best arms at that time. Don't ask me to produce a document, go and look it up. Why did Benjamin Franklin go to France during the Independence War? He had powerful allies. At that time, France was one of the most powerful countries in the world, and it was fighting with England. So Benjamin Franklin went to France, and he got support. The African nation never ever have that kind of support that America had in the Independence War, and then even
I'm gonna
after
tell
the
you why.
Independence War. Why?
Because they don't do shit like espionage.
No,
You know
no,
what I
it's not
mean?
the espionage. It's not the espionage.
Yeah,
It's
because
like
listen, let me tell you, it is espionage. Listen. It's espionage, and then it's like espionage comes in two different forms, right? You got your adverse type of espionage, right? Then you got your soft espionage, right? So on these different projects that I be on, right? China will pay America and pay another Chinese guy to come over here and stand there and watch me work. Watch me build this motherfucker. They
and
stand there and they watch me build the motherfucker and they don't say a word. They don't talk to nobody. They don't make a move. They stand at that motherfucker from the time that the job site open up to the job site close. That motherfucking Chinese motherfucker is standing in the same fucking place watching every fucking move go down.
yeah,
Right?
but all right.
That's
We
the
like you.
espionage. Right?
No,
And why ain't
Corey.
and so what I'm saying is that's what Africa needs to do. If you know, we need to know how to
No,
make some
all
arms.
right,
When you need to know how to make your shit plants and your
all
refineries
right.
and shit like that.
Okay.
Steal the intellectual property. Go and
All right.
steal intellectual property.
No,
You see what I'm
no,
saying?
Corey.
Go ahead.
It's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. Let's look at the Chinese model. Why the Chinese became so successful in 50 years. And people like to draw the Chinese model. If you look at China and be
Nope.
honest, when China was developing enough, it wasn't easy as Sunday morning enough. A lot of people starved in China because China started to focus the resources not on helping people, but to develop. So they were saying that, listen, I can't pay. It's like a mother with 3 children. And she said, listen, I can't send 3 to go school. I'm going to send 2. And fuck what happened to the next one. I'm going to put severe things into place. I'm going to say you can't have more than 1 child because we can't feed more than 1 child. Right? If I can't pay for the oil for that area, fuck it, you live in darkness and can't go.
But
Until I can figure
they're
it out.
gonna say, why can't Africa just do the same thing? You know, but I
Because
would say
it was inhumane. It was inhumane what China did.
Exactly, Haskell. Exactly.
yeah,
But like I said, I already said it. Some Africans
But it
don't
was
have to die.
no, but it
but
was
look,
inhumane. See there?
but look, forget about the inhumanity of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, let's say there were African leaders who were willing to make that sort of sacrifice, right? I think that point is tangential to the greater point of the United States being pretty much responsible for the industrialization of China.
Right.
Like they invested in the infrastructure, they taught them the
Right.
technology and all of that shit. You see what I'm
Because they
saying?
wanted the cheap labor. They wanted the
Right.
slave labor. But
So
China said,
they flipped the
just,
tables on them.
just
China,
to
once
kind of
they
flip
got
the
the
table.
help, they flipped the tables on them. But
Yeah.
that's why it's an apples to oranges comparison.
Mhm.
You have
Yeah.
a behemoth of a industrialized nation as America helping you in the early part of the 20th century, right after you came out of isolationism. Them
Mhm.
African nations ain't got nothing. Like you got Bill Gates who'll go over there and give billions and billions of billions for some vaccines or to have them people stop having kids, right? You won't never catch the Bill Gates and the Elon Musk's and the Warren Buffett say, you know what? I'm gonna put 2 billion over here to build up this railway, to build up this, to teach them how to make cars, and you'll never see
Mhm.
it. You can get all the
Mm-mm.
vaccines and all the
The family planning.
reproductive, yeah, the family, you get all of that you want. But in terms of infrastructure development and industrialization, nah.
No,
China's
so
China,
y'all looking at China the wrong way. So what China done was a trade deal. That was not. They didn't. America didn't go over there and just help them for nothing. China offered America cheap labor. Right. Listen to this. Right. They offered cheap labor. So what happened? GM start moving their plants over there, right? They start building cars over there, right? The whole time they taking advantage of the cheap labor, China is over there soaking game, bro. So
No, iPhone.
the
No,
African
I
countries
can,
can offer
I can agree
America
with you.
to
No,
offshore.
I can agree with you. iPhone
Yeah,
is instrumental to Chinese development because
yeah,
iPhone teach them how to make electronics and they've diversified in other
absolutely.
areas. But iPhone didn't offer any country in Africa with just as high population or any country in India with just as high population as
Because
what
they
they
ain't
initially
willing to
offered
do
in
what
China.
China did. China's willing to exploit some people for the overall majority of people. You see what I'm
China
saying?
was willing to enslave the people for the
Hey,
progress. Are you willing?
listen.
No. You need to be
I'm not
realistic,
willing
you
to
know.
enslave. No, I'm being
Look at
real,
all your
right?
family.
So we
Look
don't
at
have to
all your
be that
family.
extreme. I don't think Africa has to be as extreme to be willing to enslave, right? But they do have to be okay with some amount of exploitation if you want to catch up in the same way
What
that
do you
China
cut?
did.
Have you ever seen the suicide nets around the buildings in China? The suicide nets. They had to install suicide nets around many of these manufacturing
You can
buildings.
keep it right
You
there.
know why? You
Uh-huh.
know why they had to do it? People
Why?
was jumping to their death.
Yeah. They was, but look at America though. America is, I mean, it's the same way, really. I mean, everywhere is the same way. You got motherfuckers that's already getting exploited and fucked over, bro.
Yeah,
You know what
Walmart
I'm
is doing
saying?
it.
And
Walmart is doing
motherfuckers
it.
commit suicide behind that. You know,
No,
it's a bad thing.
but not at the rate of China. We're asking for China development, but are you willing to pay a China price? That's the question. And then when you say yes, you need
That's
to look
it.
at your family. You need to look at your
Uh-huh.
family and say, all right, it's 10 of us, 3 of you are not going to make it. Point out the 3. That's the
Yep.
responsibility you have when they say, I am going to follow China model. You stand up as head of your family and point out the 3 people that you fuckers will have to carry the burden.
If
Are you
you
willing to do
coming
that?
over around here to that power pack, you good. You should be good to go around there. That part ain't red taped off, brother. You can go. I wouldn't go through here, but you can walk around past that buggy. Yep.
You understand what I'm saying, Askell? If you're willing to follow the China model, are you willing to make the sacrifice? And are you the one willing to point out your family members who's going to go in almost servitude kind of jobs? 14-hour day around a sewing machine. Because they started out with
Listen,
sewing machines.
basically. Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you willing to do
Yeah.
that? So bring your family together and look at all of them and say, in order for black people in America to be successful, 3 of you motherfuckers have to go into the wilderness.
Yeah.
Can you point out the 3?
I think
In all good conscience.
I think 3 of them would volunteer. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how shit works. No, you know what I mean? You wouldn't even have to point out the 3. 3 of them gonna stand up and volunteer and say, "I'll go."
So
You know what I'm saying?
you see that happening. You see that happening, Corey.
Yeah, that's how I'm actually one of them type of niggas though. So, you know what I'm saying? It might not seem like it because the kind of life I live or whatever, but I'm one of them type of niggas that'll stand up and be like, shit, it's me. I'm gonna go.
All right.
I'm the one that's gonna do it. You know what
When
I'm
you
saying?
find-
And I know
when you
there's a
find-
lot of
When you
niggas like
find
me.
2 more, let me know. When you find 2
Yeah,
more,
right.
let me know.
Yeah.
When you
So
find 2
it's
more.
always one thing that brings value to human beings, right, is the greater good. The greater good is why people go to Vietnam. The greater good is why,
No, the draft is no, that's not true. The draft is why
Yeah,
people went to Vietnam. They were
yeah,
burning
that's
farms.
how it is.
They were
you know what I mean?
demonstrating.
You know what I mean? They willing to go to war and shit.
The draft is
But
why. After you get rid of those
even
ideas,
look at those college students, right? That was doing the march with Martin Luther King and shit, right? They was willing to go and sit down and get slapped in the face and spit on.
Yeah. But guess what? It was less than 1%. It was less than 0.1% of college students.
You absolutely. And guess what?
You are
Guess what,
right.
Haskell? America got built, and only 2% of the population was able to do it. Huh? You say, huh?
No.
What do you
No,
mean by
no,
that?
no, no,
I
no,
mean,
no.
actually
No.
physically able to get up and do it, only 2%
No,
of the
no.
population was
That's
able to
not
do
true
it.
either. That's not true.
That's
In
true.
Louisiana, in the South during slavery, black people outnumbered white people. So more than 50% of the South actually did the work because black people outnumbered the South during slavery. So we knew that it wasn't 2% because we had more black people and all of them was working.
No,
Unemployment rate
I'm talking about
um,
not the original America, like the modern type America, right? Right.
which modern
So,
2%? You mean let's talk about Ford, who was the biggest employer. Only 2%
right.
of people? No. You need
No,
to
like to
no.
build the infrastructure so that Ford
No, you talking about
could have a plant.
doing the physical labor. You talking about stupid.
Yeah,
The physical
And
labor.
it's only about
yeah.
2% of the total population that actually is laying those bricks down and
Black
laying the
people was
mortar.
more than 2%. Black people was more
So
than
we
2%
don't need
at any
we
time.
only need
No, he
1%.
didn't.
We only need 1 or 2%
He didn't say
to
black
do that.
people.
We don't need a lot of percentage of people to do it to make it happen.
That's
You know what I'm saying?
you need far more than 2%. No matter how you try to spin it, I can't unravel it. But seriously, if we look at it, I understand where suffering is coming from. I understand that. Listen, there should be further than they are. But they didn't. None of these countries ever operated in a vacuum. And the
All of
outside
those,
is just
all of
far
those
greater.
examples that he cites, they got
That's a good
a shot.
statement of
They got a
it.
shot in the arm. They got a shot
Yeah,
in the arm from another civilization or another
yeah.
country that was in a great position.
In
All
a
of them.
greater position. That's why I could
Even
mention
going back, and if you go
Benjamin
back to
Franklin and the
the
French.
quote unquote dark ages in Europe,
Yeah,
they had to get a shot in the arm from uh from the Moors. You know what I'm
from the
saying?
Moors.
That jump started their renaissance.
Right,
So you
because
don't
Right.
you don't
I'm
come out
saying, so
without help.
who go? So Africa can't get no shot in the arm. Ain't nobody willing to give Africans no shot in the arm.
China is giving them a shot in the arm now. That's why
Right.
they don't have the problem to body up with China. China is giving them a shot in the arm. When I
And then
mentioned that,
you get African Americans talking about China and they're stealing the country from them. But what they should be doing is watching China. They should have an African guy out there every day looking and writing down everything China
I'm
do.
sure they got people. They got people. Of
they
course,
got
you got
people doing
people
that.
that's
They
watching.
got people
Of
doing
course,
that. Yes, they got people who are doing that.
of
And then
course.
they have people who going to China to learn Chinese, who learning engineering, who going to Chinese university. China offering a ton load of scholarships to them, right? So, but when the
And
American
that's
press
the
put it
soft
on,
espionage that I'm talking about. Like that's
yeah,
what you got to
but
do. And then you got to do the hard espionage too. You got to figure out
Hey,
how to send some niggas in there to figure something out, bro.
hey, Chef, still on here?
China,
You still on
yeah,
here, Chef?
Yeah.
Hey, Chef, real
China
quick
been in Africa since
before
World
you
War
go,
II.
I want to address. I had want to address what you were saying about the Haitians, right?
Chef Trey.
And
yeah,
you were saying like they wanted to kind of appropriate that colonial system once they got their own taste of power, whatever the case. It's funny you say that because Dessalines wanted to do a socialistic type of platform. That was like one of the main things that they was infighting over, particularly the South versus the North, right? Because the South, or excuse me, the North is where all the quote unquote blacks were, and the South was where the mulattoes were. And what happened is a lot of the mulattoes, because their fathers were Frenchmen, a lot of them, they come from that lineage, they own a lot of property. And what Dessalines wanted to do um, was to democratize the land and make sure that every citizen got a piece of land, and they was not having that shit. They like, nah, my daddy owned this shit. Like, fuck no. And that led to a little civil war. And it was them same mulattoes that went and clicked up with the French, right, when they spun the block in 1925. The thing that Chief X was laughing about. Oh yeah, the French, they pulled, that shit. So it's funny you should say that, but yeah, you're right. And Traore is doing the same thing right now. If you coming out of instability and your shit is pretty much in ruins, you can't. You pretty much, socialism is your only option coming right out of that. You know what I'm saying? You can't privatize, and no, your shit is too the shit is too shaky. Anything could completely undermine and collapse your whole shit. So you gotta kind of have a strong hand coming right out.
Take control. Yeah, you
Right.
gotta take control of that shit. You gotta build it up. Like it shouldn't be in the hands, you know what I mean, of private. Like that's fucking nuts.
And you see Brass and people like that calling them a dictator. Well, technically, by definition, yeah, he's a dictator. But in the circumstances that they're in, you gotta. And the guy in Mali, he's a dictator too, because he said the same thing like Traore. Yeah, we gonna hold some elections. You know what I'm saying? But then as time progressed, I'm thinking they probably looked at the situation like, nah, that shit gonna get undermined by all kind of little Western espionage, and then you got these Islamists running around blowing shit up. Nah, we gotta. This ain't the time for that. You feel me? But then the West could
That's
use
why
that.
Nkrumah kept power. That's why Nkrumah kept power. Like, yo, that's too early. I ain't even get the shit done yet. You feel me? The nigga who fighting against me about to get a country back to the motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like my political opponent, or the other side of the aisle, they want to motherfucking jump back in the bed with the motherfucking with the colonizers. You feel me?
Right.
So yeah, like it.
But you see how tough that is. Imagine if you had to run a country, right? Because politics is so wicked to where you gonna have to do some form of dirt. There's no way to do that shit and stay completely clean. Impossible, right? So think about what you're talking about as far as kind of being an autocracy, at least in the beginning stages of your nation, to shore things up. But then propagandists could easily take that and say, "Oh, look, he's just out for his own power and his own aggrandizement. You know what I'm saying? He don't want a democracy. He don't have a democracy. He just want to, he's a dictator. Blah blah blah. Look, he killed them people over. You feel me? So how do you got to navigate that shit? It's hard, bro. Shit's hard, but I feel like they getting it together though. Like y'all feel like.
And I hate using these like Western words because like it only kind of dichotomizes things, right? Like when you use words like dictator and shit like that, like okay, fine, and I ain't really that familiar with the Traore thing. I was standing in the beginning when I first heard the whole story. Yeah, you don't know what's going on the ground there. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got some wild ass, cool ass niggas that's doing jihad, I mean, something about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something's got to be done.
But it's tough
as
because
far as worrying about what the Western world is calling it. You know what I mean? Like, who gives a damn? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you gotta kind of care though, Corey, because what they say holds a lot of weight, in terms of like how other nations interact with you and stuff like that, and they could use that to justify sanctioning your nation and all types of stuff. So that media muscle
you know
is
what's
real.
the underlying thing, Haskell? I'm gonna tell you what the underlying thing to a lot of this shit is, bro. It's the goddamn religion, bro. It's them three religions that came out of the fucking Mediterranean world, bro. That's what it is, man.
And that's making it hard
I
for
think a
them
lot of shit will
Africans to
be.
get on one page, right? That's what you're saying?
It is. That's if you can't look at it for what it is, imaginary lens. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it ain't gonna, boy, that shit right there, that's got a whole other goddamn world, bro. And I know a lot of people might say, well, religion ain't that bad, and some people got the right to believe, and all of the nice shit that you want to say, the Mahatma Gandhi shit, right? But I mean, that shit has never not done nothing but wreak havoc and confusion amongst human groups since its inception. I mean, you can look at Palestine, bro. These is the Canaanites literally fighting the same goddamn war that they've been fighting for 3,000-4,000 years, bro, over a belief. It's all over a belief. And then you got, all of these Islamic countries in Africa, these West African countries taking on Islam and Christianity, and it's so confusing that they can't see they can't see what to do. They don't know what to do next because your decision making has been hindered. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with the question that Mujasi asked earlier. Is the forgiveness a hindrance to us? Are we, the fact that we always forgive, after the white supremacists do shoot up the black church, and then all the black people come out and pray for them. Bro, that's the reason why the overwhelming majority of black people is in the position that they in. And all over the world. Not just America.
Not pragmatic enough, not practical enough. Right,
No,
because
that's what religion. And we all believe it though, Haskell. That's the thing. Like, I look crazy saying I don't believe it. I literally look crazy as fuck to the majority of people. I'd say 80-90% of black people. 80-90% of black people, Haskell, I look crazy as fuck, bro. And that's the problem. That's a big time. That's a problem. I don't think it's nothing that I don't know who can do anything about that, bro. Who can do something about that kind of problem?
I don't know. That's probably the hardest. You might be right. It might be the toughest obstacle because even prior to the Abrahamic religions, like Africa's specifically that continent, we always just been a people that we into believing shit. we into religion. Like John Henry Clark said, like we out Christian the Christian. You know what I'm saying? And if it wasn't that, before that it was praying to Kulu Kulu or whoever. Like, so yeah, that's a tough one, bro. We love our religion, bro.
Though, that the fact that we the out Christian the Christian, I think that's a misnomer, right? Because the real Christians, the real Catholics, and the real Church of Christ, right? Them motherfuckers, shit. Look at Jewish
they about business.
They
business.
They write the cross on the bomb before they send it to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, these niggas ain't. They will kill. They will wipe the whole fucking planet out to enforce their agenda or whatever it is. Like, so that's the thing. Like, we ain't even doing it right. We ain't even doing Christianity right. We done made something up that's our own shit, and we call it Christianity. You know what I'm saying?
But Corey, in terms of, because like, in terms of being able to enact violence to, like, under the banner of Christianity, that ain't really Christianly. That's what That's what Henry Clark is getting at, is that they'll profess the Christianity and profess the tenets of love and, you should give your last and turn the other cheek and blah, blah, blah. But they don't live that. That's what Henry Clark is saying, is that black
The
folks,
Bible don't even really talk about. That's like one. That's
it
they
does. No,
misunderstanding that. They
no,
misunderstanding what the Bible's saying
in the New
with that,
Testament, it
bro.
absolutely does. It absolutely does in the New Testament.
Yeah.
But the point is, they'll profess that stuff, and then, like you say, put that cross on a ballistic missile, right? But
Mm-hmm.
whereas with black folks, we'll say, "Oh no, love your neighbor," and you know what I'm saying. We'll cling to that part. Well, that is the essence of Christianity. You know what I'm saying? So to a fault, we'll live that shit and try to live it out. That's what the whole forgiveness thing is. Oh, after love is Christ's love, then how many times should you forgive?
You
77
know
times
what? The
7.
wild part is, yeah. Jesus, I guess, man, but I don't want to get into that argument. But yeah, it's a hindrance, man. That shit is I don't know, hassle. You know what I mean? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, I hate to, I hate. Sometimes I'm more optimistic. For the majority of the time, I be more optimistic about people, but about humans in general. But when you talk about Africa and where they at, bro, I think black people in America got a way better chance than Africans, right? But yeah, them folks is steeped in that belief. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be always hard to show them, you know, not to forgive the motherfucker
And
who
it's
come up and shoot the church up.
and you know what? I heard Home Team History. I don't know if you remember him. You do YouTube videos. Garfield used to
Yeah,
react to
he
his
good.
videos.
I like him. I like home
I,
team.
I
Yeah.
heard him say one time, right? And it struck home for me. He said, African diversity is Africa's greatest strength and greatest weakness. Because whereas with other
Mm-hmm.
nations, there aren't so many divisions, it's easier to kind of get everybody on one page. In them African
Yeah.
nations, you could be in one nation and it's like 80 languages, like 50
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
religions. And you know what I'm saying? So that diversity ends up working against you. Because the minute you say, hey, let's go left, this guy gonna say, nah, but what about this? And then this guy gonna say, but no, what about this deity? And what about this tradition? And no, my ancestors own
Mm-hmm.
here and blah, blah, blah. And it's just infighting, infighting, infighting. You can't make heads or tails or nothing, you know?
But
Yeah.
And that's
Haskell,
probably
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Haskell,
Yeah.
you know the point that they got us on was not necessarily the culture, but the tribalism that existed before, because a lot of tribes had and still have beef with each other.
yeah,
Not
that's what I'm
necessarily
talking
based on
about.
culture, but just
But
general beef. I don't know if it's based on culture because the culture is pretty much consistent across the continent. So I don't
well,
think it's
no,
a culture.
there's cultural continuity across the continent. That doesn't mean that every all those cultures are the same, because two cultures
What
could
does
be.
that mean? What does cultural continuity mean?
So in other words, then Corey, would be
It
like
means that
sort of
you'll
like the
find
lowest,
similarities. It means you'll find
common,
similarities.
or the it's kind of like the lowest common denominator in a math equation, right? So it would be
Mm-hmm.
certain precepts, certain ideas, motifs, etc., that you will find in over a wide expanse of cultures and wide expanse of space and time. So them cultures are
Right. Right.
different, but it'll be certain things you could point to, like, oh,
The
okay,
thing about that,
yeah,
the reason why I asked that has because it seems like it's a cultural continuity across humanity.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so like that to
But
me,
but but but,
like
but
when
look,
people say
but
stuff
as a
like that, it
but
just
as a
don't mean
Jamaican
much
though,
to me,
but as a Jamaican,
right?
the continuity is going to be more pronounced between me and a Trinidadian as opposed to me and
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
somebody from Zimbabwe.
Right,
You get what I'm
right.
saying? Right. So
Uh-huh.
that's all that
I
that's all it
I hear
means.
that. Yeah.
But there's also
I think that's kind of the problem that is. It's just kind of real generic to me, and then it, like the more generic something is, like the less like meaning it really has. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so
I feel you.
I
I feel
guess,
you.
yeah. I don't know, you know what I mean?
I know
Not to say
exactly.
nothing against what y'all was saying, but you said the word, and that just triggered that
I know
thought or whatever.
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
What it is
yeah,
because it's kind of. Go ahead, Joe.
There's something to that, Corey.
but
There's
but
definitely
but Corey
What's up?
Corey is correct. But when you look at African cultures on a whole, I could be from ancient Kemet, go to a West African country, and they will know and recognize exactly what I'm saying. They will recognize the terms, they will recognize the gestures, and they could join in as opposed to saying, I go to Mesoamerica. They may recognize it. It's possible because they think that there's some African influence. But you can speak one language, I can speak another language, and we can still recognize what we're talking about. We can have some sort of recognition or something that will spark, particularly in African culture as opposed to outside of African culture. So that is where we're saying there's a cultural continuity in that sense. Even if you go to places like Ghana now, they have you wouldn't believe that they have stones with Medu Neter on it, and they have a story about a Kemetic priest running from Kemet,
Yeah, that's
running
because
to
they know
Ghana.
as Americans, they know they looking for African American tourists to come over there, and
Okay.
and they know what African Americans think about.
That doesn't make the story a
But
lie.
I don't even want to go down that line. That's a whole different line
I know.
we going down there. You know what I mean?
I know.
But yeah, so Logic, what you say? You were saying it's something to which part, Logic?
Yeah, there's that cultural continuity when we hold that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like when we get big, I don't think
Is Logic
is
breaking
that
up for
the
everybody, or
definition
is
is
that
so
me?
loose.
Logic
I
is
don't really
breaking
Yeah,
know what you.
Logic is
you
breaking.
real choppy. You choppy, Brad.
Hold on. I got you.
Yeah, as soon as you start going in, you start
I'm about to
getting
step
cut off.
outside. Am I in the
That's
clear?
crazy. You work on a military base, bro. I would not be
Yeah, you
talking to
good.
these
You good
niggas
now.
on no military base, bro. With the crazy shit these niggas. Crazy as hell.
Kids, keep me in your prayers, Haskell. Any day now, bro.
Right.
But but for real, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, so the cultural continuity thing, you're right. Like the definition is so loose, it don't really mean nothing. But the problem with it is that you think it means something, right? So you insert it into the conversation like it's a real thing, but like it's the linchpin to what you talk about. So like without this thing, cultural continuity, we don't got all the other shit that you just explained. But I don't know what the hell you mean when you say cultural continuity. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
You
where it
mean
becomes
you
problematic.
mean
Like
the
because
infighting?
now I'm almost gonna search for something I don't know what the hell it means.
When you say other stuff, you talking about the infighting within African societies? Is that the other stuff you're referring to?
Well, usually people say they will use cultural continuity to either say it as if we need more of it, or like they're explaining, what we get out of the cultural continuity, right? But since we don't understand what the cultural continuity is, you explaining what we get out of it don't help us because I don't know how to get that cultural continuity. The one you explaining, that's like I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's African. I don't know if you made it up. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that is. That's what I'm more so saying.
Well, Logic, because you don't understand the cultural continuity. That doesn't mean someone else can't look at it and see something.
You gotta turn your phone up
And
or something. I can't hear you.
what I'm
You real
saying,
low. You real low.
what I'm saying is just because you can't get something out of cultural continuity doesn't mean it's not valuable to someone else. So I agree that it may not
Oh
mean
yeah.
nothing to you, but it definitely means something to other people who are studying the culture, and that is just a way for them to get past all the
Yeah,
man
I
and
think
tribalism.
culture is another part of the problem too. Like the I think we're holding culture. One thing about culture, culture should be like culture should evolve with the times, right? So
Absolutely.
like, yeah, we can't like holding on to culture or being concerned with culture and like I think it's not being. I don't think we shouldn't be concerned with it at all. But I think we hold culture in too high regard. You know what I mean? I think we should be. I think we should be more principled than culture. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
If all we could have, we had 100%, right? And we have the only thing. We only got two things we can have out of the 100% is culture and principle, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
20% of it should be culture and 80% of it should be principle.
But Corey, the culture and the principle intertwine because every culture has a specific principle.
But we're
Joey's
letting
right there.
the
He's right
culture
there.
override the principle.
So here's where hold up. Here's where I agree and disagree with you, Corey.
The culture teaches you your principles and how you should live. And that is what we're
They
trying to
should, but sometimes they get outdated.
He's got a bit of a point.
Value those,
right? And that's where you make a great point, right? So the fact that you're trying to preserve some culture, right? And then not to mention you're trying to preserve some amalgamation of culture that somebody told you, right? So you're trying to preserve this culture rather than us being brilliant enough to like have a clean slate and create this culture based on our environment, right? Why would we try to preserve the culture that was based on their environment that if we can tell didn't really stand up to the adversities that they wound up running into, right? Why don't we take advantage of our predicament instead of trying to implement all that old shit? We the coldest niggas. Why we can't create our shit based on our environment right here? Why would we need to preserve that shit if we that brilliant, right?
Well, Logic, I can agree that we have a right to our own culture. But if you're going back to ancient Kemet, and ancient Kemet had ancient Kemetic history, they're doing something right. They're definitely doing something right.
Well, they failed. They got conquered. So how many times did ancient Kemet get conquered? How many times did they fall and get conquered?
But how long did they?
Countless.
But how long did they last before they really got conquered? That's the question. They last a good few thousand years. No, but hold on. They lasted a good few thousand years before they got conquered. They got into beefs with people, but they lasted a good few thousand years before they really got conquered, and that's saying something. You can't find another culture in ancient times that had ancient history that deep. So
society didn't move as fast at that time, right? So the way that society moves, right, and America's done already. Where are we? We less than 500 years old. Yeah, most people don't realize, and y'all ain't comfortable with hearing this, but y'all have to realize America is done. And I'm gonna do a show on that this weekend, Logic. But yeah. How long it's been? Since the independence, it's only been like 250 or 150, right, or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
America's over with as a superpower, as the world
17 something.
Yeah, we've done that quick. We came in hot and heavy, and we already over with already. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying like today it's a higher, faster turnover. So like we have to be more principled than culture, bro. Our culture has to change. Our culture has to be like sort of like you know how they say the Constitution is a living document, right? That's how culture should be.
You know what? If we were living in a more principled society and a more principled world,
we live in a society that reveres culture more than principle, though. That's what it is. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
But Corey, guess what? You also live in a society where people who have beaten, raped, and robbed you now try to teach you principles of not fighting back and laying down and taking it. So therefore, their principles ain't worth shit.
America don't
principles ain't worth shit, though. Yes, they do.
America that I've lived in, listen,
yeah, they do.
America that I live in, bro, don't teach principles of laying down and
Yes,
and
they do.
turning the
It's
other
true.
cheek. The
They
America
do.
that I know, the America that I know, they will go and get them AR-15, and they down the hell business.
But they don't want
The,
you. They don't want you as a black man to do that.
Mhm.
They want to do that.
That-
They don't
that's
encourage you to
fine.
do that. They tell you
But see,
you
that's
had to
what
turn
I'm
the other
saying.
cheek. And there's a
Yes,
difference. After they stole
but
everything from
I'm
you,
not listening to
you ain't
no. I'm
supposed to
not
fight.
listening to them. I'm not listening to them though. And that's what I'm
Right.
trying to tell. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all, that the fact that we listening to them talk about how good Christians they is and how good Christians you need to be and you should be, they don't live a word of that shit.
Mark
That
this
shit don't
moment.
count. That shit don't count when somebody done raped one of them white boys' daughters.
I
That
agree.
Christianity, when listen carefully. When somebody rapes a white boy's daughter, Christianity is the furthest thing from that white boy's mind. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And we got the problem with putting Christianity at the forefront when our daughters get raped. They got the tendency to put Christianity the furthest from their mind. We got the tendency to put it at the forefront. That's what I'm saying. Why we more culture, we're worrying about the cultural aspect of it rather than the principle aspect. Because when you're talking about, like Big Worm said, when it's principality to this shit, bro.
Principalities involved
Big
in this
Worm
shit.
don't give a damn if you smoke 2 joints out of his quarter ounce that he fronted you. He fronted them a quarter ounce, they smoked 2 joints. Somebody had to die. He sent niggas through there. So that's what I'm saying. It's principalities.
Corey, Big Worm
It's
said it's principalities involved in this shit.
Absolutely. It's principalities in time. Yeah.
I want everyone to mark this moment because this is the first time ever I agreed with Corey. So mark this moment in
You
history.
agree with me every day. You just don't realize you do.
Mark this moment. This is the first time I agreed with Corey. Hopefully it's not the last time.
Most people that ever talk to me and disagree with me, really for real, they really agree with me. They just don't realize it yet.
No, you see, Corey, you are the personification of when keeping it real could go wrong. Because you keep it too real sometimes. And I'm going to say that to you for people to hear. You is what we call in the hood a real nigga. And keeping it real can go wrong real fast.
I don't think so. I think Dave Chappelle got that wrong, right? But the keeping it real goes wrong was when so-called people think they keeping it real, right? When they think they keeping it real by doing some wild shit or doing some shit that goes against them advancing. When you choose culture over principle, you think you're keeping it real, right? But no, you're not. You're actually not keeping it real. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes the only principle people have comes from their culture and they don't want to let it go. You can't just let go of culture. That's literally ingrained in you. We do so many things.
And that's a hindrance.
We do so many things unconsciously that are African. We don't even know. We can't help it. It's just in us, and we can't help that. No matter what you go to.
I think the things that you attribute to being African are a lot of times just human.
I would disagree.
You know what I mean?
I would disagree.
Most of the time when y'all attribute shit to being African, you can look across the whole globe and see it.
Yes, but guess what? The original humans were African. So humanity in Africa and African is the same thing. There's no distinction according to science.
I guess so. So when we look at Scandinavia, we see cultural continuity then, right?
I would imagine that we probably would see that, but it's not the same cultural continuity.
So what's the point? If we in Africa,
different cultural
and we can look all the way to Scandinavia. Listen, if we sitting in West Africa, and we can look all the way to Scandinavia, and we can see cultural continuity. At that point, that word need to go in the fucking trash.
No, because it shows.
I swear to God, y'all make it seem like Africans have fucking horns going out of their heads like unicorns, like we got wings and shit, like we're fucking special. Come on, bro.
If
You know what I
anybody,
mean?
Smalls,
Every,
if anybody on the planet had horns going
And
out of
then
their head,
for
it would
keeping
be
it
an
real
African.
like that, though, Smalls, you be a coon for that. You're gonna be a coon
I'm
for
cool
telling the
saying,
truth. For
yeah,
telling the
come
truth,
on, man. Like everything is
bro.
not an
Like,
African thing, bro. It's you know, like
and even the
oh,
word,
you're the only
even
ones
the
who do it.
word,
Fuck that.
even the word
Every
Africa, or y'all always hear me say the word Africa. It ain't nothing but it's like birthday cake to me.
Yeah, it's
When
becoming
y'all say
meaningless.
Africa, it seems like birthday cake to me. You know, and what I mean by that, right? Because you know what you do with a birthday cake, right? You put a candle on the motherfucker and you make a wish. And that's all I hear when I hear the word Africa. I
but
hear
who?
it's a wish that there's some type of unifying factor in that word.
Well, I want you to show me one
That's
thing.
like
Okay,
that's like
Corey.
me saying Asia. That's like me saying word Asia, right? Y'all, if I say the word Asia, it don't mean the same thing to y'all the way y'all use the word Africa.
But it shouldn't. It
You
should
see what
not.
I'm
But it shouldn't. I'm not
Well,
Asian.
isn't Asia the biggest continent on the
But
planet?
I don't come from Asia, so I don't see anything special about Asia. Only Asians do.
No.
I
You
see
don't
something
come from
special.
Africa either.
Well, bro,
Where you
everybody comes
from?
from Africa. Everybody comes from Africa.
Where you
Yeah,
from?
See, there
we
it
are
goes.
west.
There it goes.
Where
Everybody
you're
goes.
hold
Come
on,
on,
hold
I'm
on,
not talking
hold
about
on,
the
small.
Omo Valley.
Hold on, Smalls. Where
I'm
I'm
not talking
born,
about Omo Valley
where I'm born is not
or the
where I'm
Great
from.
Rift Valley.
Where you're born is not where you're from. I was born in America, but I'm not from there. My whole
Yeah.
origin is not from America. I was born there, but my ancestry goes back to Africa. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Your ancestors, mine do too. I'm a first generation American, but
So
I'm
then,
American. I was born
he
here
said
in
human
America.
beings ancestry comes from Africa. So my question is, why y'all be hating
Right.
on the white man then?
I didn't say it. I didn't
Why
say it.
why y'all be tripping on the? You see when you use that kind of logic, how it
That's
makes no
why I
fucking
asked,
sense.
did he see?
Because
That was my very reason I asked him, did he see cultural continuity with Scandinavia, right?
yeah, but
Right.
Because like
it's not the same
if you
culture.
do,
It's not the same thing. It's not the same cultural continuity. I can go to Greece and Rome
so
and
it's different cultural continuity.
yeah,
So
but I can
there's
go to
supposed to be a continuity there. How you gonna
right,
use the
but
word
I can go,
different
but I
and in
right, but I can
I
go to
don't think
Greece.
it's
Right,
grammatically correct.
but
Somebody
the
that's a teacher can
but
tell
the
me different, but I
but the
don't think it's
cultural
grammatically
continuity.
correct to use continuity and different in the same sentence. I don't think
Right,
it's grammatically correct.
but Corey, the cultural
But somebody
continuity.
can disprove me on that.
The cultural continuity that they have to me doesn't go back to Africa. I can look at a Greek and a Roman and say that definitely goes back to Africa because all they did was Greekify African culture, and we know that because we can see that. We can see that they
That's
just dressed
terrible.
up the deity.
You know that.
We just dressed.
Do you know that is so terrible, right?
Am I lying though? Am I lying, Corey? All they did was dress up the same deities in different clothes and made them Greek. That is all that they did. They
If that
Greekified the
may
idea.
be, and these are the things that we look for to make us feel like something. So when you
But
said
am I
that, like,
wrong?
and
Am I wrong?
this is what logic.
Yes,
Because
yes,
logic think I
Joey.
don't be hearing,
Yes.
right? This is
No,
logic.
I'm sure I'm not wrong.
Right here.
Well, let prove me wrong then. I know I'm not wrong. But let logic prove me wrong though.
No.
He just said that, but I can show you where
Let Corey finish his statement, yo. We'll talk about it. I'm still in here. Let Corey finish his statement.
So what just said I got sidetracked there real quick.
No,
I said, what did I say was your biggest right? Logic.
I've been in and out. I've been in and out too. I just heard the last part of what y'all was talking about with the cultural continuities. I kind of just
Right.
getting back
And
to
he
my phone
said,
myself.
oh no, I know what I was saying. And I was saying that this is one of your biggest gripes. That when he
The
said,
stolen legacy jump.
when he said that he said that that the Greeks stole all of the African shit or whatever. He said, I'm paraphrasing, right? But the thing is, and what you were saying, I'm supposed to feel something when he said that. Like that's the point. Like I was literally supposed to feel something when he was like, yeah, the Greeks got that shit from Africa. Like that makes us supposed to feel some type of way. Which is, I don't know. Don't make me feel like nothing because the Greeks learned something from the Egyptians.
No, I can't tell you how to feel, but if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
No, but you should know that's why people say that, because you're supposed to feel something behind that.
What? Okay,
that's supposed to give you a feeling.
You don't have to feel something behind it, but I'm not making up the story. I didn't make that up. They did do that. So
yeah, George T.M. James made that up.
But they were all sharing culture. See this, and this is when I say this. This is why you feel bad. This is why you feel bad about what I say, right? Because when I tell the truth about it, right? When I don't glorify the Africa part of it, right? When I say, look, all of them motherfuckers in that Mediterranean world were sharing culture and ideas. See, that's the actual truth. That's the actual truth of it. Not that the Greeks went over to Africa and stole the ideas.
So stop for a second, Joey. So stop for a second. So think about actually what you're saying. You're saying that they were Greek people living in Greece with no culture, no information. Damn, I mean, anything other than like spoken word, they literally don't have anything until they come in contact with Africa. So I mean, like but that would be like saying that they.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I know that's what you're saying. I know that's what you're saying.
They had to have a boat to get over there to steal this shit.
right. They had to be doing something. They had to be doing something, bro. They had to be doing something. And to say that another people group is not capable of producing philosophy of their own, that's also ridiculous. Because if you spin that around, that's like saying Africans aren't able to come up with philosophy on their own. Come on, like you can't do that. The statement is just too broad. You're making too broad of a sweeping statement there.
I see what has to happen.
I think it's only 2 scripts in the whole Africa. Like two scripts that you can attribute to Africa. Like I'm just saying, like this is why y'all call us fools, right? Because when somebody try to bring you back, but all that
is going out for
yo, it's a balance, huh?
You coming back?
You coming back down?
I was saying though, but that's to show y'all that it's a balance there. You know what I'm saying? When I say that it was only 2 scripts that you can attribute to Africa, then that lets you balance it out. Like, yo, okay, so Africa was doing everything. Now some people in Africa was doing this, and some people in Africa was doing that. Some people in Europe was doing this. Some people in Asia was doing that. Right? When it all come together, then we got something. You see what I'm saying?
When we got something. That's when we finally have something. When the niggas start sharing that shit, right? I got I got a little farming over here. You got some better techniques over here. We building. You know, that's when the shit started taking off. And you can't skip that step. You can't skip that step.
That's what human beings do.
And that flows in both directions. Yeah, it's not just the Greeks benefiting, right? It's Africans benefiting too.
And that's what happened in the Mediterranean world, right? The Mediterranean world actually allowed that section of the globe to be more worldly. You see what I'm saying? The more worldly, and even that's what I wanted to say about the IQ test, Logic, right? Stefan came in, he started talking about the language barrier and how ways certain people talk, like we can't pick it up in the Black community, you know what I mean? Just because of how they taught us the language. And y'all remember everything he said, and I totally agree with, right? But
Mm-hmm.
another component that it made me have me thinking as we were doing the answers, right, is the answers depend on how worldly you are. The
Mm.
the way you interpret the question depends on how worldly you is. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so being more worldly, right? Do y'all know what I mean by being more worldly?
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
know what I mean by that? Well traveled,
I'm
rather,
having to guess,
and
but go
being
ahead and
around different groups of
explain
people.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, being having
Okay. Just
a diverse
having
friend
diverse
group.
experiences. Yeah, I got
Yes,
you. Yeah.
absolutely. That's what makes you worldly, right? And that's what makes you be able to pass something like or get a high score or an acceptable score on something like a IQ test. But again, that's what made the Mediterranean world a little more advanced than the rest of the world, right? Because that Mediterranean allowed them to be a lot more worldly. What's up, brother? All right. Yep.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
leave that out, Joey. I don't know what I mean. I don't understand. I mean, I do know, but you don't need to paint the picture that way, right? We got stuff that they did to us in America for us to get our lick back. We don't need to go all the way back to Greece and find out what they guilty of. 5,000. Nah, fuck all that. That's not what we. That can't be what we still mad at right now. Even if that were the case, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Right.
Can you
If
break
you
that
need
down for me
if you
again?
need a reason, to fight, and you got to go way back 5,000 years, and you ain't taking the fight serious, like, because that ain't
Right.
what we fighting. We're not trying to
Or can you break that down again?
reclaim what Greece took from us. No, we're trying to further our cause here in America. So,
Some of these niggas
Court,
are logic. Hey,
And
sad to
that's
say, some of these.
Court, can you break down the worldly thing again? I'm trying to understand the definition you were making when you said people
so.
being
Well
world.
traveled
Am
and
I
culturally
clear now?
diverse.
So that
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Mediterranean made them more well traveled, is what you're saying? Is that
They
what you're
were
trying to say?
they were in contact. They were in contact with a more diverse group. Yeah.
So what about the groups that were in contact with them? Wouldn't they still be considered worldly also because they're in contact with them?
I don't really
The
understand
people that
the question. Say,
the people that
you,
you're saying are worldly because they
uh-huh.
had contact with other people, right? So those other people that they were contacting are also worldly. Would that be correct or would that be incorrect?
No, because they only getting a one way. They only get so. Listen. So when the American when Cortez hit the shores of South America, right? That didn't make the Native Americans more worldly.
Why not?
You see what I'm saying? It just what it did was prove that Cortez and them was worldly, and it showed that how the disadvantage of not being as worldly uh, would become
What? Wait. So
because they when they were already they were so the ship technology the technology that they got over here with that Cortez and them got over here with they didn't that was those that shipbuilding technique grew in the Mediterranean world. The seaworthy ships, right?
right.
Those vessels
So
that
they
can travel across vast stretches of water, right?
so
That
is your argument that they were the
technology
ones who
was an
created the boat?
amalgamation of different cultures in the Mediterranean world.
Got you. So are you trying to say that those people are the ones who invented the boat and they were the ones who were able to go, they were the first ones to be able to transnavigate the world, is what you're saying? Is that the argument that you're making?
The reason why I said it right was because being more worldly allows you to have a better picture of things, and it gives you a broader.
Uh-huh.
Your intellect becomes more broader.
I get that, but I'm trying to
You're
understand the
able.
definition more so of worldly because I get what you're trying to say, but what I'm saying
Listen,
is if
I
all
didn't
of
give.
those
I
different
gave my
cultures were
definition. I didn't give the Webster. I didn't give the
right.
Webster. It might not be
Right.
that
That's what
how
I'm
it is
trying to
in Webster.
understand.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand
Okay.
your definition. That's the reason why I'm asking these questions so I can further
Okay.
understand your definition of worldly.
So
Okay.
it's all for understanding. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean, not what you're doing or none of that. I'm trying to understand the point that you're making by saying this because I'm thinking
The
that in one
point that
moment
he was
it
saying
sounds
was
like you're saying that
it
because
was
they
so
had boats,
easy.
Probably
then they were
forgot the
able to
point.
travel around.
No, Corey, it was so what you said was so simple, yo. He disagrees with it, really. He didn't like it.
Ooh,
But you was spot on. He just didn't like it.
chef, why are you trying to speak for both of us? We both men having a conversation and you come in and
Because you
try to
bullshit.
explain.
Because
I'm
you
asking
bullshitting
him.
right now.
I'm not
Because
bullshitting.
you
I'm asking the
bullshitting.
man for
You're trying to
clarity.
contradict
How was
what he's
that
saying,
bullshit?
and it was so everybody
I
who
didn't contradict
had
anything. I asked
high
for
school history
questions.
understand what
Why
he's
was it
saying.
necessary for you to jump into two grown men and feel like you
Because
needed
you're
to explain for
bullshitting.
him?
Because you bullshitting. You
You
now
don't
you
know
about
what
to
I'm
have him
doing.
retracting. You now he about to
You
start
know,
retracting what he's saying, and
I just don't let him do that then, bro. Like, what make you his?
I,
Why are you
I
his net
wasn't gonna
holder?
retract it.
Nigga, like,
you
let that
start
man speak on what the
retracting the
fuck he
shit.
need to speak
You
on.
start
You ain't his
retracting
dad,
it. Corey, you start
Chef,
retracting that
you are
shit.
not that man's
Yeah,
daddy. Let that
We
man
gotta
speak
start
for
retracting.
himself, nigga.
you
Unless you his
start,
daddy, let him speak for himself.
you start retracting yourself, Corey. Yeah. It's not the Webster. Nigga,
Look,
it was a basic definition
so
that
if
you
he
gave.
retracted it, then that wasn't what he meant. Why are you trying
No,
to
that's
put words in that man's mouth? Bro?
Because I think
Are you the keeper of him? Because I
so
didn't
what
ask
did
you
you
shit.
disagree
I
with?
asked him.
So what did you
hold on.
disagree
I
with?
didn't disagree with
Hold on,
shit.
get the
I'm
call.
saying for
Yes, you
clarity.
did.
I didn't
Yes, you
ask you for
did. Yes,
nothing
you did.
at all.
I'm going back
Whatsoever.
on me. Yes, you did.
Good.
Nigga, yeah,
Stay
I
on
see
mute.
what the hell you was
Stay
doing.
on mute. And stop trying to speak for grown men.
Yo, can I get in on this? I want to ask a question. Hello?
Go ahead, Nathaniel. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yo, big up everybody. What I want to know is what are y'all's definition?
What up?
What are your working definition for philosophy?
See that? Answer that.
Nigga, you answer it with your butt man ass. You always trying to come in and say something. Shut the fuck up.
Answer that, C Dot. That's a good one for C
I'm
Dot.
not even talking to neither one of us. You talking to Corey, nigga.
Then he
Let
act
that
like
man
he ain't
ask his
even say
question.
that. This nigga shit.
Weird ass nigga.
Because I want to know what angle y'all discussing it from. So
They ain't gonna give it to you because they want to talk that shit and then cold and shit. Like, hey, nigga,
We want
speak
C
on
Dot
the
answer.
man.
C
No,
Dot
you
got an
answer,
answer for
nigga.
everything.
You the one that
Shit.
got to answer for your man. You the
Since
one that
you don't
speak
know
for your
what
boy,
world,
nigga. You
since
answer it.
your ass don't, since you
You
don't
answer
know what
it. Since
worldly
you gotta
means,
speak for your
since you
man.
don't know
You
what
can't speak
worldly
for
means,
nobody. I speak for me, weirdo.
since you
You
don't know,
speak for him. You speak
since
for
you
him,
don't know what
weirdo.
worldly
You
means,
speak for
now
him,
you
weirdo.
answer
Stop
that.
worrying about what I'm
Answer
talking about.
philosophy. What the fuck is
Since you had
philosophy?
to jump in and save your man life and shit,
What's
weird ass
philosophy?
nigga. Stop being fucking weird. Shut the fuck up and listen. Wasn't even talking to you. That man was asking a direct question. Nobody was talking to Chef.
Hey, my homie Dot. You my man, bro. But just know that Chef is doing this shit to you on purpose. He's rage baiting you, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna be clear. I know, and I'm gonna bake that shit right on. I'm gonna give him exactly what he asking for. So either leave me be or do you. But don't keep fucking trying to antagonize me, bro. I'm gonna give you what you want.
Y'all
What's
leave C Dot
philosophy? See
alone.
that?
Leave C Dot alone, Chef. Come on, man.
No, it's important when you're trying to distinguish between what you want to call it, ancient cultural thought and what we call philosophy. There's what you call natural philosophy at that too. Like there's a clear distinction. And when you conflate the two, you're making a false argument.
I'm back.
Because the Greeks really started something new. They was the first to have a non-mythological explanation. They didn't have no gods. When Thales of Miletus actually started the pre-Socratic Greek philosophy in Ionia, not in Egypt, he was doing natural philosophy, and he was the first to do that. Nobody else did that. Everybody else had a god mixed in. They had some
Thank you.
supernatural thing to explain it. He wasn't trying to use just reason alone to explain it, and that was new. That's what the Greeks brought. And I don't know why people can't give people credit. Why does everything got to be stolen from this person and stolen from that?
Everything's got to come. Everything's got to come from
Africa.
Africa.
I know you can't prove what you said. I know you
That's
can't.
what it is.
You're that deception because you have such an affinity for Egypt. The Egyptians didn't even fight the Greeks. They let them come in there.
Yeah. I hate when you try to paint it. When you try to paint it so crazy that Greek people never had an original idea of their own. That's just retarded.
You can look up Thales right now. You can look up natural philosophy, the origins of it, all of that, and you're gonna find out I am correct.
Well said, brother.
I have
well
this
said.
argument all the while, so I know it like the back of my hand.
No doubt.
Because people always
so see that. You still wanted to get to the bottom of the worldly shit, or what? Or did we get? Did y'all get to the bottom of that already? What happened with that? I had a phone call, so I had to step away.
I was about to say, it sounded like you let your man speak for you. So whatever Chef came up with was what I took from you, because you ain't say nothing behind him. So I figured he was speaking for you.
Because I was on a phone call. I had to take a phone call. So you know what I mean. In the middle of that, but so
I can dig. I mean, well, the question is still there. I was still trying to get an understanding.
I wasn't retracting. I thought you was asking me like, is my definition like matching up with the other like the definition? No definition. I'm just giving you what I mean by worldly, right? Oh man,
right. And that's what I was trying to. I understood that, but that's what I was trying to understand is what you were saying, what your definition was, because you weren't using the definition or the scholarly definition of worldly.
Well, what is the definition? What is the
exactly what you were saying?
Of worldly? What's the real definition of worldly?
Let's check it out.
Somebody might be by a computer or something.
That's not a problem. Can you hear me still?
Oh my God! This is hilarious.
Can you hear me?
Cultural.
Because I'm probably like right there with it. I'd imagine.
Experienced and sophisticated.
Of a person is experienced and sophisticated. I mean, you basically.
And that's what Corey was talking about.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, and Corey talk.
That's what he was talking about.
That's basically what I'm saying. I'm saying
it was clear. It was clear.
Yeah,
it was clear. This shit wasn't even
well traveled and the diverse.
My bad, Corey. When next time you start talking, Corey, I'm gonna make sure that I ask Chef what you mean. Okay, I got you.
No, it ain't that. It's just that we have these conversations a lot, and then we get bogged down on like different like small things, like minuscule things that wasn't the actual point, and so like. I understand where his frustration comes because I get the frustration with that too myself. You know what I'm saying?
That's why Chef spoke up because
I'm not usually in here, so that's not really my thing. So I'm not usually in here, so I don't know what y'all be talking about. So when I say that I'm trying to ask you a question in order to gain clarity, then that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to be smart. I'm trying to ask you questions to gain clarity of what you're speaking on. Then I can address what you're speaking on with my opinion. So I didn't really need Chef in order to tell me what you were saying because I thought we were all men.
So what do you want to address about the worldly piece? About what I said about how that Mediterranean world was more worldly. Go ahead.
They were more sophisticated than who?
Oh my God.
Everybody else in the world?
I didn't say they were more worldly than everybody else in the world. I'm just saying by them being worldly, that advanced a lot of that technology, and that kind of put the Mediterranean world on a stage to move forward with technology.
Okay.
And the wild part is I forgot what my original point about that was, though. That's the wild part. Why did I even say that? I was making a different point though.
About the
Yeah,
IQ.
you was
You was
just
talking about the IQ and how that African Americans are just not as worldly, meaning we don't have a wide range of experiences. You dig what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right,
it
right.
kind of hinders our cognition and answering certain questions. That was the
So
point.
yeah, and so that's goes to and that's why I'm saying like, and that was the whole piece to the cultural, the principle over the culture thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, culture is one thing, but see, it's got to be like I said, it's got to be like a living document, right? Because when you look at the Mediterranean world, right, it's all kinds of different cultures in the Mediterranean world, right? But those cultures have evolved over time because of the worldliness. You see what I'm saying? They all of the cultures over there evolve over time.
That's the point. But that's the point, though, Corey. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean? The reason why we had that little skirmish, you dig what I'm saying? Because it's how we ask questions. If you don't know what worldly means, then you ask the question like, well, what does worldly mean? But it wasn't asked in that sense. Because what you said was dead on. For if you knew what worldly meant, you wouldn't even would ask that motherfucking question. Like that was the whole point. You feel me? Like that's crazy.
So your point is to say that black people aren't sophisticated, and the reason why white people was able to come up the way they did is because they were. Like, and then this is
No, we
where I
was
be
talking
trying to
about that.
understand
We
you
was
before
talking
I
about
come up with my own ideology or what I'm
I might
thinking
have
that you
mixed that
saying.
up.
But
I
when
might have
you
mixed it up.
explain the dumbass
Go
shit,
ahead.
it really makes it even more clear of how weird that y'all thought processes are as far as black people go. Because you would come out of your
I
mouth
think
and make
you're
a statement
offended,
that
bro.
black
I think you're
people are
offended.
y'all would make the opinion or make the statement that black people are not sophisticated and not worldly. That is what you just got through saying. Then you made an argument for how much it advanced Europeans. Like this is the weirdo shit. And then y'all be like, I don't know why
So
people call us
the
kings and
Mediterranean
sensibles.
world is
It's
not
because of your
just
thought process.
Europeans, bro.
You sitting here
Bro,
saying that only white people or only
listen.
Europeans because of the Mesopotamia were sophisticated
Why
is ridiculous.
would the Mediterranean world?
That's
That
crazy.
is crazy.
No, what you just did was crazy. Because the Mediterranean is not exclusively white, and then you jump from the Mediterranean.
Yeah, that's wild.
Then I jump from the Mediterranean to what?
You jump from the
Then I did
Mediterranean.
what?
Those are two different regions.
Your phone keep clearing out as soon as you say I jump from the Mediterranean to something else. What else did you say?
You said you jumped from the. You said that. I didn't do it.
I knew we was gonna end up here.
I didn't hear what I'm saying
is exclusively white, which is not, and then you reinforced that when you said that Europe was allowed to climb when the conversation was about the Mediterranean being worldly, and somehow you just put the Mediterranean in Europe. You did it. You just said it. Everybody heard you.
Yeah. The Mediterranean
the reason
world is
I did it, can I finish? Let me get, bruh. The reason I said that is because he was making a comparison to black people. What part of that part didn't you hear?
No.
Because the comparison wasn't made to black people.
You came
What are we
in the
talking
middle of the
about?
conversation.
What are we talking about? If the reference wasn't being made towards black people, then who are we talking about being in the Mediterranean if not black people?
Comparison to black people.
It ain't. No, I didn't. He did. He said it. Yes, he
I
did.
never.
Yes, he did. That was the only reason I said something is because the comparison was made
talked
to
about
black
the
people.
Listen, brother. Listen. Hey, C-Dot, I think you would be. Did you see the show yesterday?
No, I was just listening in on it. That's why I came up here to actually see what was going on. Because I was listening in.
Okay, so did you hear us? Did you hear us? You gotta take a deep breath, C-Dot. I'm not your enemy. I'm your brother. Believe me. I know you think I'm a cool. I'm your brother, brother.
I don't consider none of y'all my enemy. Y'all ain't like powerful enough or none of that to be my enemy.
No, you think I'm a cool, but I am your brother. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say anything. But
I'm sorry. Say that again. Your phone
listen,
going out. Either mine is going out or yours going out.
it's probably mine. It's probably mine. Listen, if you would have saw the show yesterday, you would have kind of had a better understanding of what I'm saying, right? If we did you see the part where we was answering the IQ test questions? Did you see that part?
I seen part of it. I seen when y'all was talking about your issues with the one guy who called you a coon or a sambo, and y'all was talking about
Oh yeah,
IQ and
that's a different show. Then they playing something else right now.
Whatever y'all
But
got going
anyway,
on. Right?
what we did yesterday was we were answering questions from an IQ test, right? So we were getting a lot of them wrong. You know, some of us was getting some of them right, and some of us was fucking up, and we was all fucking up, and you know everything, right? And we were complaining about every time that Brass would give us the answer, we would have a complaint. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had a complaint. Logic had a complaint. I think Shepard had a complaint on one, whatever, right? But Shepard came in and he was like, "Yo," he said, "It's a language barrier. You know, it's the reason why that it's the way the questions is asked, and they're not asking it in a way that." Like the way that we use our grammar every day on a day-to-day basis, right?
It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be in Spanish grammar. It's not a colloquial test. It's not a test in your dialect. And all of us
understand.
Who is that speaking? And the
I
theme
know,
thing.
we're not arguing that. Hold on, let me get my point out real quick, right? So what Shepard said, what I said also, I was like, yeah, and I agree with Shepard, right? But also, as I was thinking about it, and as I was answering the question, and I was thinking about it myself, I thought the fact that it would be a lot easier if one was more worldly. The more worldly somebody is, the easier it would be to interpret the question, to actually comprehend what the question is actually asking you. Because that was the problem. It wasn't like once we figured out the equation, once we figured out the formula, that we couldn't do the equation, right? It's that we couldn't even figure out the formula because how we don't understand what they're actually asking us by the way they're asking us. You see what I'm saying? And
I think environment. I think the fact that y'all was answering questions on a panel versus being in a environment where you got to sit down and actually look at. That's why I say the answers.
Let's not get off. We on a whole different.
All right, go ahead.
Now.
Let me go back on mute.
Yeah. I don't want to get veered off. Real quick.
Yo, Corey.
So
I want to respond to this.
What I'm saying, real quick, 5 more seconds. What I was saying is, I think when you're more worldly, you have a broader vocabulary and a broader experience. So now you're able to from different experiences. You see what I'm saying? So, and that was my whole point. And talking about the worldliness right there. You know what I mean?
To me, it was an argument for comprehension because I teach literature. And the other day on Psycho Show, we had a big discussion where they was trying to tell me, you don't need literature in the rest of your life. You don't need to know grammar. You don't need to know these formal skills. And I'm like, what are you talking about? When you have to communicate, you have to think logically, you have to use formal skills. And he was talking about, no. We every day we use colloquialism. So what I had him do is I had him read a dialect poem written by Paul Laurence Dunbar. And he reading it, and he think he doing a good. So then I said, explain it. And guess what he had to do? He had to use standard grammar to explain it. And I deaded him in the conversation. Because I tried to tell him that when you go back in America, you need standard grammar to control logical thinking and logical organization. Because that's what the questions were about. And most people don't take the language serious. They just don't. They don't master grammar. The whole time they kept arguing about why do I need to read Shakespeare, but I'm having an argument about grammar comprehension. And I'm listening to them like, yo, you hate white folks so much that you want to master the language. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, because this is how they get you.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what Shepard was saying too, and you know what I'm saying? I definitely agree with that part of it. The grammar, the comprehending. You know what I'm saying? That's a big time. I think but that comes along. I think the grammar and the comprehension comes with being worldly. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause look, I think like Snoop and you sound like you
I'm
may
Jamaican,
be
man. I'm
from
Jamaican.
huh?
I'm Jamaican too.
Okay. But do you live in the States?
Yeah. I'm in New Orleans right now, and I grew up in
So,
California. I came up here
right.
when I was
And
young.
then once you got to the States, you traveled in the States a little bit too, didn't you?
Yeah, I traveled all around the states. I've been almost a lot of
Right.
states. I lived in a lot of regions. I lived in maybe 8 different states. I went to
Right. So like you have a very diverse experience. And what I noticed yesterday was Stu Pease was picking up a lot of the fucking language. He was getting the answers right. First of all, because Stu Pease is just smart anyway, right? But I noticed like he comprehends the English language better than I do. You know what I'm saying? It's certain language that the English language is spoken in certain settings where it'll throw a black person off just because of the everyday way we use the English language. You see what I'm saying?
All we do is speak patois to each other, but then we have what's called language register. We know it like if we go in a certain area, a certain arena, we're gonna cut off the patois, and accent gonna come up here and there, but we're gonna speak standard language. You have to.
Right. Yeah, Stu Pease mentioned that. When you take the test, it's written in regular English, but all day long y'all speaking patois. You know what I'm saying? The test anyway, so that puts black people at a disadvantage, right? But just like I said, when you more traveled and more worldly, things come to you a little bit better than someone who never left their neighborhood. That's all I'm saying. Shit like that.
What happened with me, right? Because I feel comfortable enough to use the standard register, I wasn't intimidated to go to places. Because even if I talk a certain way, I know I'm smarter than that white person right there, or I know they can't say something that I can't understand, and I know they can't write better than me. You understand? So that gave me an incentive to go to places and be able to hold my own, because I would surprise them. It happened out of wow. You understand? They talk to me and they think I'm dumb, but then they realize, oh, you got a master's degree? Or you read Chaucer? Or you read Percy Bysshe Shelley? Or you read Byron? And I'm talking these white authors, and they I read all of them in college. Yeah, my favorite poem is this. Broke this down, broke that down. They start looking at you like, wait a minute. And then you answer the phone and they can't understand nothing you see. And then you hung up the phone and you start talking back again. You know what I mean? So it made me comfortable. I could go anywhere and just be like, man, fuck you. You stupid. You don't worry about you. And I don't know. And I tried to empower my Black American students like that, because I taught AP literature and I had a couple of regular classes, but I taught in Inglewood, California at a blood school for about 14 years. And I ran the AP program. I had my success. And I had a lot of students checking in for come out of class, because my main thing was comprehension, analogies, analogous thinking, and composition, being able to express yourself in writing. So I think that's necessary. And I see a lot of people that's Black American or even American in general, they kind of take it for granted. They take English class and writing and all them something there for granted, especially now that you have the computer that does a lot of the grammar for you. But then when you speaking and having to think, there's no computer. So your mind is kind of losing that skill. You understand?
Yeah, even when I was looking at some of them questions or hearing some of those questions, I was thinking too to myself, like most of the white boys that I went to school with wouldn't have got them answers right. I think we would have did better than some of the white boys I went to school with. You know what I'm saying? Like just because of some of the ways that the questions was asked, right? They're not asked in a way that we communicate on a day-to-day basis. Like even like the way that white boys communicate with one another. You know what I mean? At least the ones that I grew up with, right? They don't use the English saying per se. You know.
No, they use their own colloquialisms and dialect too. That's what I told you. It's called language registers. That's the term you want. You got it where you register at is different places in society. You have a different language at home. You have a different language at register when you go in at your house. There's certain things you will say,
right,
and attitude and certain vocabulary you lose within your house and your immediate family that you do not use with your friends. Your language register.
Right.
And then you got a professional language register, which includes a lot of jargon and standardizations of presentations and whatnot when you're in a work site. And then you got a professional or standard that is used for voting and the news and all of them something there. But none of them is better than the other one. There's not a ranking thing. You're supposed to be adept at all of them, the whole of them.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was another thing I wanted to chime in too. When y'all want to do the philosophy thing, don't go to Egypt, because there was a big debate in the 70s, and this WIREDU versus GYEKYE. This was a big debate, and it was called, "Is there an African philosophy?" These are two Africans. One argued saying, no, there's no systematic, natural approach to philosophy inherent to Africa. The other said yes, and what he used was the Akan sense of self and personhood. And it has nothing to do with mythology. It really is a reason-ordered philosophy. So when you want to go to African philosophy, please use that. Don't go to Egypt, because you can't sustain an argument with Egypt, but you can sustain an argument with that. And if you read those two authors, you can get the whole context of what's against the concept of an African philosophy and what's in favor of it via the Akan sense of personhood, as an example.
Naim Akbar uses that.
And
Naim Akbar uses the Akan concept of self, and a little bit of his work. He mentioned it. If anybody familiar with Naim Akbar.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but he mixed Egypt. He mixed Egypt into his shit too. So you would disagree with me, because he definitely mixed Egypt into it.
Define philosophy.
Well, the love of wisdom.
So what was he saying? The brother, was he saying
the love of wisdom is general?
You shouldn't mix Egypt in with African philosophy? Is that what he was saying?
Sorry about that.
I couldn't hear you one at a time. I'm sorry. Go ahead, say that again. I
was asking a question real quick before y'all go. I just want to understand what y'all said just a few minutes ago, right? Just so I can keep up with y'all. Were you saying, brother, that you shouldn't mix Egyptian philosophy with African philosophy? Was that what you said?
Egyptians don't have a philosophy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Go ahead, brother. I'm all ears.
You can call that religious orientation, philosophical in a sense, but they don't have a natural philosophy. They still deal with mythology and things representing gods and all of them. Something there.
But isn't that a part of philosophy though?
No, I just told you. Greek philosophy started natural philosophy, which did not have any mythology, pure reason alone to explain phenomena. Not Ptah, not Osiris being weighed, none of that. There's none of that. That's why they were exorcised by the people that believed in the gods.
Well, sir, this is why I asked you for a definition of philosophy.
Because you got two definitions. You got the love of wisdom, but then you got the rise of natural philosophy, which includes the love of pure wisdom, just reason. So you can say there's reason in a a people's cultural system, and then sort of call that a philosophy because there's some wisdom in that, whatever, but that's not the true essence of philosophy. Natural philosophy, where you use reason alone to explain things, and you work with logical arguments. You don't have a pantheon of gods behind everything and representing things. They don't.
Mhm.
Real
Right.
philosophers don't have
So
that.
I got you. But based on, is there any? Can you read the actual like base definition of philosophy so I can get a further on? Because you saying real philosophy
No, I
and
said natural philosophy. The
or
basic
natural philosophy. I'm sorry,
philosophy is a level of
natural
wisdom.
philosophy.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Natural philosophy. That's what the Greeks
Right,
started.
right. But that's what I'm saying. But if we look up the
That's the
definition of
precursor to the
philosophy,
science that we know
what comes up?
today. Natural philosophy is the precursor to the science that we know today.
Okay. So based on the definition of philosophy, because I'm still trying to base it around the typical definition of philosophy.
That's just a
So if
level
we're
deep.
looking at the typical definition of philosophy, what is that definition? And
Level wisdom.
I'm sure it's not just the level of wisdom. That's not just the simplistic. That's the simplistic way of defining it. I'm asking for the
All right.
actual definition.
So right now, hold on. If you want, I'm gonna go get the history of philosophy text and read the first line to you.
If you're trying to look at it on your phone, you ain't gonna be able to do it. I just tried to do that too. You know what I mean? I thought you might have been in front of your computer or something where you could read the definition out.
No, I got the
But
history
if you're
of
trying to do it
philosophy.
on your
I got the history of philosophy right here translated by James H. Tufts. So let's go to the first line. Let's go right here. This is published in 1896. Oh yeah, I like this book too. Now, well, in the first appearance in literature of the words, they're written in Greek, which I can't read. So I'm not going to front like I can reach Greek. And then it says, and blank, 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 which is the simpler form. And it says the simple and yet at the same time indefinite meaning striving after wisdom may still be recognized by the word philosophy in literature after Socrates, particularly in the school of Plato and Aristotle, acquired a fixed signification according to which it denotes exactly the same as the German word Wissenschaft, which means a love of wisdom. Is that simple?
brother,
What do you mean?
I don't want to cut you. Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off or anything, but I'm asking for like if it's like a Webster's dictionary definition. Like I,
I
I
just
know
read
that
it
you're
in
giving me a
the history.
definition based on the individual that you might respect or whatnot, but I'm asking just for a base definition for people that can
Striving for
look it
wisdom.
up on Google.
Striving for
Can we
wisdom.
find the Google definition
Striving,
for?
striving for wisdom. That's as simple
Okay,
as you can get.
okay. I wasn't looking for simple. I was looking for definition. But from what I'm actually reading right now, it's the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. Could I be heard?
So that's modern. That's a modern definition of the modern word philosophy. He's talking about
Right, and that's what I
natural
was,
philosophy.
and
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to
So
differentiate. That's why I
what
wanted
the
to make sure
definition
because
was, what
But
he read, the definition was within what he read, which means striving for knowledge.
Mhm.
he's just using a modern appropriation of the word. I understand to try and use
Right.
that to
I'm
spread.
no. The reason I use that is because, like I said, it's the easy way for somebody to go and look. When somebody looks up what a word is defined, if they go and Google it, I was looking for that definition because everybody don't have access to some of the books that you might be reading or coming up with the definition for. So I was saying, based on the renowned definition, like what is that? What can everybody go look up and see what the definition of philosophy is? And based on that definition of philosophy, I don't see why we would say Africans didn't have that same thought process when looking at life and reality and
He
nature and
didn't
all
say
these different
African.
things.
He did not. He
I
did
didn't.
not say African.
Gotcha. No problem.
All right. Because you just said African. You said that he said Africans didn't have that, right? But that's not what he
Well,
said. He said
Egyptians. I'm sorry,
Egyptians didn't have
Egyptians.
that.
No,
Egypt is
they
in
didn't
Africa, but okay, no
what we
problem.
consider modern philosophy beginning with pure wisdom. They had a pantheon of gods to explain their things. The Greeks did not have that. That's what distinguished the Greeks. So I said you could treat all other type of people's cultural systems as philosophical. I said that. But I also said the Greek thing is distinguished because they don't have no gods. They only have pure reason, which means they only deal with the fundamental building blocks of knowledge, would have nothing to do with Ptah, Osiris, Ansar, Aset, Geb. None of that has nothing to do with the fundamental building blocks of understanding thought. It doesn't. And to conflate the two and compare the two and equate the two is crazy. That's just crazy. Where is the Egyptian argument about parts to hold?
About what?
Where is it? Where is it? About parts to
I
hold.
didn't hear you. I don't know that. I don't know parts to hold. Maybe I'm not understanding the accent.
Fundamental argument in
Fractions. Fractions.
What? No,
Fractions?
where's the philosophical pure argument for that? That's
Oh,
a
I
system
don't
of
know.
arithmetic. You just can't say
Yeah.
fraction. There has to be an argument, a debate, a philosophical argument about the issue of is the part the whole or the whole the part? Because that goes back to philosophical notions about the.
I'm sure they had it. I'm sure they had it though.
Yeah, he said
No,
that's the formula. He's
He's
saying that's the formula to
You
philosophy.
can't
Jefferson.
have these things if you have a religion, if you have religious basis. That's the whole point. You don't
They
have
didn't
these
have
things.
a arithmetic
What?
or mathematical system.
I didn't say mathematical systems. Why are you bringing up my mathematical system?
No, y'all miscommunicating. Y'all having a miscommunication right now. He's saying
that they had a philosophical concept about philosophical argument about the part to the whole, which is not true. It was a good try, but
yeah, he's saying that's the formula, the part to the whole. Say it again, but that's the formula to philosophy. That's what he's saying. That's what he's trying to say. Basically.
no, that's just one of the little issues that philosophy that you can go read about, and it was debated for centuries, and then it influenced how you think in Christianity and about God, where God is everything and everything that is God makes it one, or if the parts are individual and separate to make up the totality. All of those things came out of pure wisdom, and they affected Christianity. Even the middle.
So are you saying also that the Greeks
developed the idea of the Trinity came from philosophy? You know that, right? It came from the Middle Platonists, and then the
Trinity came from philosophy. The religious ideology of the Trinity.
Most of the Neoplatonists became Christians, looked back on the Middle Platonist idea to try and solve the issue of the parts in the whole and the three-person hypothesis in God, and all that came from philosophy. It came from Greek philosophy. It did.
So okay, so if you're basically saying that the religion came from the philosophy.
I'm saying they went back to the philosophy to try and explain logical issues they were having in their concept of God.
So did Greeks ever have a concept of God? Is that also an argument that you're making, that they never had a concept of God?
No, not the philosopher. They had a concept of the good, the monad, the one, the unifying principle, but it wasn't an entity. It wasn't deified. It wasn't living. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just a pure philosophical idea about unity.
The Greeks.
He didn't understand your question. That was a good answer, but you didn't understand the question that he asked you. He's asking you, brother, did the Greeks have any gods?
Not the philosophers.
Yeah, no, so he's saying the philosophers weren't gods. But go
Okay,
ahead.
so
The philosophers
but the
didn't
Greek
have
people
gods.
were.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. So that's what I was trying to understand. You're saying that the philosophers didn't have gods, but you're not saying that the Greek people didn't have gods, because that's what I was
Yeah,
confusing
the
when you
philosophers
said
deceived.
that.
They was ran out the cities because they was taking the youth and basically teaching them against the traditional gods and teaching them to think for themselves. And the people didn't like that.
Okay,
That's why they had
gotcha.
to run these schools
Yeah,
out in different.
all of those
It
Greek
was
philosophers
centuries later
that
before
we
they adopted
revere
them.
today were
It was
persecuted.
centuries later before
That-
that
yeah.
became part of Greek learning. That was centuries after. But when the philosophers
They were already persecuted when the Greeks accepted it. Those philosophers had already been persecuted already. But go ahead.
Yeah. So all right. So they weren't. So is it just that they weren't influenced by God in order to come up with their philosophy, or are you saying that they never had an idea of a God in the first place? Were they just atheists? Like they were the world's first known atheists? Is that the argument? Is that the conversation that you having, anathema?
What did you say now? I didn't hear you. What I see?
Now I was just wondering, like, were you basically differentiating? Were you saying like they were like some of the world's first known atheists, or are
In
you
a sense,
saying that their
what the
philosophy
philosophers,
just
what they
wasn't
did,
backed by
what they did
religion?
with when they started natural philosophy, it was different. It's almost like piggybacking what Corey said, because in that, right, when they started that, there was more people over there in that Antioch Ionian region that started picking up on that idea. So there's new cultural exchange going on because now they're not going back and praying to whatever local god there was for a problem. You understand me? They are trying to reason it. So that means that their faculties, their cognitive abilities are working different than somebody that's looking the way they heart with Osiris on a fucking feather. If I'm sitting over here and I'm really trying to think through a logical principle with nothing, just my brain is going to become a little better at reasoning than yours. If all you're doing is praying and burning frankincense and myrrh and reading the fucking book of the dead. How are you going to compete with me when I'm sitting here doing complex reasoning, complex thinking out of nowhere, creating foundations for reasoning and verifying what I'm saying through logical proofs, not religious beliefs? How are you going to outthink me? And then the people in those regions' cognitive skills are going to improve to where those cognitive skills moved around the world, moved back into Egypt, took over the world thinking to the highest degree is the philosophical degree, a philosophical understanding of a subject. Come on, man. What are we doing here?
But didn't they adopt Egypt though? Like when Ptolemy came into Egypt, he adopted Egyptian cultures. You know what I'm saying? Cleopatra learned the language.
The Greeks
Like,
in because Alexander was on his way to go to war with India over some black pepper and gold issue, and he went through there and kicked the Persians up out of Egypt because the Persians was over there still smashing on the Egypt because vassals at that time to the Persian Empire, and Alexander had already marched up the Persian Empire. That's how he was able to get some bread and some fucking trees from lower part of Nubia to make some boats, and they needed to feed the army for go war with India. That's why he died over there in like Pakistan, Afghanistan area, because they wasn't beefing with Egypt. He left Ptolemy there, and then the Egyptians befriended Ptolemy. That's what happened. They never came and warred with Egypt. There was never no war.
you're right. They're right, but Ptolemy was placed in power there before old boy died. But what I'm saying is that the Greeks, when they did go into Egypt, and when Ptolemy was placed into Egypt as the guy who was going to be running that area, they adopted the culture. Like they didn't make it, oh well, we just gonna go with Greek philosophy now. No, they adopted the Egyptian culture as a whole.
I
So
never
that's what I'm saying. Like,
but they weren't the philosophers. You got to remember who was Alexander's teacher? Aristotle. Aristotle's taught by Plato. Plato's
yeah,
taught by
but
Socrates. Socrates is taught by the pre-Socratics. The pre-Socratics are taught by Thales. I mean,
mhm.
so I don't understand what we're talking about here.
No, that's what
Because
I'm saying. I mean, that you making my argument for me because you're saying that they talk about people.
by the time you already get the Greeks coming in there, they already have an established philosophical system. There's really nothing to borrow from Egypt. They're adopting the Egyptian culture to rule the people because those people wouldn't allow you to rule them if you didn't live by their custom.
But come on now, but they didn't have a choice. They wouldn't have had a choice though. They wouldn't have had a choice but to adopt whatever Greece was kicking at the time because of the fact of how Alexander came through there rolling. So they wouldn't have had a choice but to adopt if they had to. Just like every other European culture goes and colonizes everywhere else. They didn't take that same colonistic approach with Egypt. Instead, they adopted the culture and blended in. So that's why I'm having an issue.
Change no culture though. What do you mean they didn't have no choice? He left a vassal there so the fucking Persians wouldn't come back. That's why he left that there. He left vassals in Persia too. When he died, yes, he did. And all of his generals
That's what I'm
went to war.
saying.
That's what divided up the Mediterranean originally.
I got you. But what I'm saying is they didn't like Alexander wasn't going in to colonialize, you know what I mean, all of these places that he was going into. He was just trying to take over. He was just basically just trying to say, look, I'll run this shit. So when he went into a lot of these places, whether that be India, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, whatever you want to call it, into those areas and defeated old boy, his idea when he was leaving people in place over there, it wasn't to turn those places into Greek places. He didn't mind adopting these cultures that he was running into. And it shows that with places like Egypt, especially. He went to what's it called? Sawa, wherever in order to where all of the Egyptian pharaohs had to go in order to solidify their power or whatever. So he had to go. He went there in order to solidify his, which shows an adoption of the culture. It doesn't really necessarily show that he's taking over and saying, "Look, I'm trying to dominate y'all. Y'all just got to listen to what I say." He kind of accepted what they were doing and blended into it. So that's the only point that I'm making.
I disagree, man, because what I'm telling you is that back in those times, you had to take on certain customs and things of the people in order to rule them. They would revolt, they would leave, because they were still supernatural and superstitious. This is a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a certain extent, but I don't think that's what happened with Egypt, especially with Alexander or the Ptolemies. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's just a history of them adopting the original culture that was there, and in some cases they might have added their little twist to it and stuff like that. But for the most part, they were adopting that culture and way of life.
No, I disagree.
Okay, all right. No problem.
I disagree because you got the Middle Platonists that went into Egypt teaching philosophy. You got Plotinus. You got Proclus came out of Egypt. You got all of them in the school of Alexandria teaching pure Neoplatonism. They're not in there teaching nothing about no Egyptian system. All of those
well, they living by it.
The basis for the Christianity. The basic philosophical principles from Christianity developed out of Greek thought. Notice I said philosophical principles, not the biblical shit.
No, I feel you. I think I get where you coming from and what you're trying to say, but I just think it's more nuance to it because of the fact that because of the way that like I said, Alexander and the Ptolemies came into that region. I think it was more to it because they could have just took it over and said, "Look, y'all Greek." You know what I mean? All of this is Greece. You know what I'm saying? But instead,
they didn't do that anywhere they went. They left vassals, they left local culture because they had learned that to do that is too much to a populace. You will lose the populace and you will have to send so many centuries, whether they'd rather adopt you as mercenaries and bring you into the fold of their military conquest and allow you to keep your culture, make you a vassal and tax you.
Right, which
And to
will
do
make
that,
more sense for Greece,
certain
right?
leaders had to go and adopt the system. You had Serapis and all of that, but that's not what the philosophers didn't change. They went in there and they kept doing philosophy. That's what they did. And it was distinct from what was in Africa and what the Egyptians taught. It just was. What Plotinus was teaching.
But how do we know that? But how do we know that if Africa doesn't have that written history like that? No. I'm saying
They're not talking about Gad. They're not talking about Osiris.
Got you. But I got you. But would you agree that the majority of the continent of Africa did not have a large written history that was carried on into now?
I gave you the argument for philosophy in continental Africa with the argument about is there African philosophy and the con system of personhood is the best system to defend. Trying to defend anything in Egypt, no, it won't work. You're gonna lose every time. But with the conscience of personhood, you actually have an independent African philosophical system that could be academically argued in favor of. That had no outside influence and has no mythological aspect to it, trying to explain the sense of your being, your personhood, without independent of any God activity. Only the Akans have that. And they've been all over Africa looking for it. And it's not me, it's Africans. And I told you, one of the Africans is arguing that there is no African philosophy, and the other is arguing like, no, because this system here is independent of the Akan religion. This system here is about just your being, and it don't have nothing to do with a God. It just has to do with the different manifestations of the way you achieve personhood. And I don't want to start reading all them African words because ain't nobody gonna understand them anyway. But you can look up the Akan system of personhood and you're gonna get it.
That's sports right there.
No, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people always want to say these people stole this and stole that. I'm not saying they didn't steal something. It wasn't cultural diffusion, but everybody creates something independent here and there. All the people on earth have created things without outside influence. Why not give people the credit? I don't know. I don't know why people don't do it. Why is it impossible for them to have made up natural philosophy? And why is that about tea that they made that shit up?
Yeah, I don't think that's an argument that's being made. At least not here anyway. I don't know if somebody else made that argument, but I don't think. I mean, the fact that you put natural philosophy on it is.
You asked me if someone was helping. Oh,
you trying to get in?
I was waiting on the jerk.
Because there's ways to pursue wisdom, like I said, culturally and in other aspects of life that can't be denied. But when you start taking away those things, and then you just deal with what you can work out logically with the mind, how you can diagram what you just worked out logically with the mind. Does that make sense? Coming up with a framework to say that this right here makes sense in an abstract format. It's abstract reasoning. That's what I'm talking about. That's what they developed. They developed at a different level because there was no gods involved. It's just you trying to prove a statement. You make a statement about the universe, now prove it. With no science at the time, they're developing the sciences. So all you got maybe is a little math and natural experience. And you trying to prove this or explain this or justify your statement about this phenomenon, but not refer to some supernatural thing. That was new.
Is astrology considered supernatural?
Yeah.
Astrology is?
Yeah, because you name all the stars gods. That's one of the first things people did. That's where story writing came from. Is when we looked up at the sky and we began to tell the stories through the things in the sky, which were fixed, and we started writing that shit down. So you got Orion, you got this, you got that, and all the cultures named that shit and saw some big war going on
but
amongst the stars. They didn't do
but
astronomy.
aren't those
They did
but the
astrology.
people the stars that you're naming and stuff like that aren't those Greek, like those are named after Greek and stuff like
No, but
that. So those astronomers who named those things were actually the
the
same people
traditional
that we
people
talking
had their
about.
own names for them. The
Yeah, but the
traditional people
same
had their
people
own
that you're
names
talking
for them.
about are the ones who
But they
named those stars things like Orion
responded
and
to the same names they give them. Just like the Aztecs had their own name for those same constellations. And
got
they
you. I got
and
you.
and
But
they envisioned the same type of wars and stories going on as
got you. Got
because they
you.
were
That's
not
I
doing, they
agree.
were not doing astronomy. They were doing astrology.
Uh-huh.
So it had to be a story with it. It
Right.
couldn't just be a straight measurement.
Uh-huh.
The Greeks are the ones that allowed you to do a straight measurement, get rid of astrology. You gotta remember, niggas were still doing astrology all up into the 18,
The
1600s,
Greeks did?
1700s. They were still asking astrologers, you know, you still had Nostradamus. Come on, man, talking to the Russians, talking about, yeah, on this day, you need to do this. What are we talking about here? It's only into modern science that you really took that shit out of astronomy. And people still believe in that crazy shit.
Do you know of any Africans that
They do. They believe that, you
put
know, when
that?
it's a big ass red moon, that they, you know, all of this and red.
Mhm. So the Africans that's what Africans did?
I don't know what Africans did. They made up a story about this. They just didn't study that just straight in metrics. They put a story behind it. That's what the people did.
So why do you think you're able to give a story on what the Greeks did and not what the Africans were doing?
What do you mean? We know what the Africans did. They wrote about it. They tell us that they used these
They
stars. They
wrote?
positioned this. They left evidence. Yeah, there's
Africans
writing.
write about it, or did Egyptians write about it?
Or did the Coptics write about it? And then the Egyptians copied from the Coptics. And the Coptics were Africans. Africans also learned to write Greek too, you know. They wrote in Greek. It wasn't just white people writing in Greek, you know. There were black people that learned Greek. They were members of the church, you know. They were priests, highly educated. Y'all remember the Nubians were Greek. Yeah, the Nubians
The
adopted
Nubians
Greek.
were Greek?
Yeah, they adopted Greek. They became Christianized and adopted Greek. I think in the 5th or 6th century.
So prior to that, it's really nothing to go off of, right?
This is fact. The last
I'm
Nubian
saying
writings are
prior
in
to
Greek.
that, right. So prior to that, what were they speaking? How were they communicating?
They were using their traditional languages. And then I think they adopted the Greek when they got Christianized.
Okay. And that's the Nubians, right? Like modern day Sudan.
They adopted Coptic before that. They adopted Coptic before that. They had their traditional language. Then they adopted Coptic, and then they adopted the Greek when the Coptics changed to the Greek writing for the church manifest, and they bought the Greek down, and they started writing in Greek, and they got records of it, of them writing in Greek.
But that's what I was saying. Prior to that, were they writing anything then, or was it just pure like vocal communication?
They have, like I said, they got Coptic records about what they did previously in the Old Kingdom. But you got to remember when you
But
did
nothing.
a lot of times they would change all and update all the records, just like with a lot of the West African countries. Once they turned Islamic, they started writing everything down in the Islamic doctrine, and so you wouldn't get things that could have been written in ancient language that made for them. You would just adopt a new script and retell the stories in whatever the new script was. That's what they did. I can't change
What do
any
they do with
script.
the old script?
What do you mean? Now you want to just speculate? We don't have
No, I'm
that.
asking. I mean, you saying it like you knew. I was just asking, like, what might have happened to the old script? I don't know, so I'm asking you.
All we can trust is what records are left in the new scripts that the people wrote down about the old script, but didn't take that with a grain of bias, because you know it said the victors write the story.
Mm-hmm. Is that not true?
Well, I don't know, because the Christian Nubians could have been telling a biased story in favor of the Christian Nubians, and not talk about what they got rid of to become Christianized or whatever. You see me? Or the other faction. So I can't say that would just be speculation. You have to go to like archaeology and other things like that, other areas of study.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do it written because there's no writing.
Right. And that's what I was asking you earlier about the writings prior to the Coptics. Were there other writings? And I was saying, like, Africans, that goes back to the statement I made before, that Africans don't have a long history of writings that you can
Oh yeah.
actually go to and say, hey, this is what they were doing back in such and such, such and such, because Africans on the continent were not necessarily writing like that on a mass scale. Right? Would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't find out what they're doing. There's other areas of study. And if you're starting to see things that indicate they're highly religious, if you don't see things that indicate there was an outcast class, if you don't find burials that have non-religious items in them and different other type of items that indicate some type of secular movement, something outside of that culture, you can start surmising things about the relationship, the cultural unity, distinctions within the culture to the archaeology. Then you go into other areas of study, other sciences, maybe DNA, maybe this, and that. And you start, making hypotheses and making, drawing conclusions, surmising and all of them something. But the evidence would still have to be consistent. Because if you go on, like, for instance, if you go in certain grave of the philosopher, you're going to find certain things that's different than if you go on a religious grave. You're going to find this man was a member of this maybe order of this religious sect because of his burial, whether he left nothing written or not. Then you might find this man over here don't have those things. He got other things, so you can't associate him with that sect, and you're trying to figure that out based on evidence. So you will find these things, you understand, it's not necessarily right thing. Science we are dealing with. And there's other ways to draw conclusions.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna mute, man. I don't want to dominate the conversation, so I'm gonna
No, you
mute and
good,
let somebody
sweetheart.
else talk.
You good, man. Don't worry yourself, man. I don't know why nobody else chiming on this. We just talking about philosophy or nothing.
For sure. I appreciate you. You know what I mean? I appreciate the conversation, though. Cause,
I love you to see
you know,
that. I thought you was mad at me because of the look of war going, but I'm not into that. You
hell
understand?
nah, bro. Nah, bro. I ain't nah, bro. If I ain't never told you I had no problem with you, I ain't got no problem with you now. I promise you. I ain't even got no problem with the people who think I got a problem with them. Honestly and truthfully, I'm just out here living. That's all.
If me up here and he thinks say we are gonna get in an argument about the fuckery, I say, nah, man, I come up here just for the conversation.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
it.
enjoy what I like about over here. I like Psycho Show, and me and Q will do what we are do beefing right now. But I used to enjoy going over there, messing around with them, build a little parasocial network. But this place over here, I don't know what Brass got going on, but it seemed like the sharp minds is starting to gravitate over here. I said, yo, I gotta go over there and talk to them. To them brother over there sound like I can have certain different type of conversation without having to argue and all them something. We can debate and discuss whatever, but I ain't gotta argue and cuss out and tell somebody go suck this and whatever. Read.
Yeah, that's what I be trying to get away from, bro. Like on everything I love, I hate having them rah conversations, man. I just be wanting to ask and gain information and what I mean, change ideals or whatever, exchange ideas with each other and all that type of stuff. So I be trying to get more of an understanding of how other people be thinking. You know what I mean? Like I don't come into these circles in order to try to, be persuaded or to persuade other people. I'm just exchanging ideas.
Oh, me not,
And
see that. Me not gonna lie. Me like to turn up too. So me not gonna knock that. But
no,
you know, because over there it's a different environment. You understand? But over here you can do the barring thing. You understand?
I ain't used to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not.
You can do the real intellectual, because sometimes being really intellectual is boring. Like taking the IQ test. As much as people learned about language and got to reflect, because you know I was the one that taught Bryce and all that. Try to say Bryce, since he mentioned the IQ test, because a lot of people probably never took one or seen one. They don't even understand questions being asked. That this thing is really not a difficult thing to do. It's just, do you think like this? Can you improve your logic? That's all it's asking you for do, and it's actually fun. It's like a game. That's how I look on it. So when Bryce bring it up and you get to get all the reaction, you can't do that panel. You just can't. People would have left the shore. They would have just left. They would have dropped off. It'd been boring. Because you know what I mean? So over here, you can do a little thing like that. And I appreciate you, brother, for that. I appreciate love all of y'all for that. Yeah, you provided the intellectual space where you can really be intellectual. You understand? Sometimes y'all turn up, y'all have comedy and all that, but I like the barring part. I like when you pull up the team then and you go in at it, because we got enough turn up show. You don't always have a turn up.
Yeah.
We got that.
Facts. I appreciate it too. I mean, I don't always agree, of course, because there's a lot of shit over here that we talked and discussed about that I completely and utterly disagree with. But
Fact.
I appreciate the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to the Sambo Coon thing earlier or whatever, and I was like, man, let me go over here and actually have a conversation. I remember coming on here and saying some of y'all act like some Sambos. I said Sambos. I ain't use the terminology coon, but I use Sambos. And that's all based on perception of thought, the way people think, you know what I'm saying, can actually, for me, it makes me place people in those roles and those characters. So for me, if I say somebody is a Sambo or whatever, you know what I'm saying, I'm basing it on the thought process that you're displaying. You know what I'm saying? And if it's antithetical to Black progression, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna have something to say about it. I'm definitely gonna feel like, yeah, that's a Sambo cool moment. But that's just speaking to that part. You know what I mean? Other than that, I don't have no
Yeah,
problem with
that would also be you ordaining yourself the authority of what Black progression is. And so the whole idea is, but the whole idea would be to keep the floor open so we can allow all the ideas to come in and get flushed out. So if your idea is good and it doesn't get flushed out when we keep it, if it's bad, that'll make you a coon. You feel me? That can't be bad simply because I'm offering it to help the community. You get what I'm saying? Like just because you disagree with it.
But if it's not progressive for the community, then that's the reason I'm disagreeing with it. And I'm not basing it off of being an authority. I'm giving you my opinion based on your actions. So it's not necessarily me saying I'm the authority to say that everyone should view you as that way. I'm telling you that's how I view you. So that's definitely different. I'm not saying that.
So you have deemed, you would have deemed my ideas unprogressive, and I'm saying, how dare you be so arrogant to tell me like you're the only nigga who knows what is progressive for African Americans? No, like I'm trying to, like, in all reality, you got to keep the floor open so everybody feels welcome to present their ideas, and we'll deal with the idea as it comes up. But just because I don't agree with it or disagree with it, that can't make you a coon, simply because the space is for us to bring ideas to help the community, right? So once we hash it out, if the ones are not helping, we just discard that shit. But that don't make the person who brought up the idea a coon. Like, come on, that's all I'm saying.
What I'm saying, I'm literally telling you, like, I base this on my personal opinion, and the reason why I will call someone a Sambo is based on that. It's based on me feeling like what you're saying or what you're doing is antithetical to Black people. So if I say you're doing some Sambo shit, that means I'm really calling you a sellout. I'm really saying you selling out Black people with the
totally
ideals
get that, right? Right, I totally get that. So, like, let's say and I'm not saying that you are, but there are people in the conscious community who feel like Dr. Martin Luther King was a coon, right? For whatever particular reason, it's not really important because I'm not putting that label on you. But I'm saying, how dare they look at what Martin Luther King did and make a judgment as if black people didn't benefit at all from that. How dare you, bro? So like that's more what I'm saying. Like we could have the conversation without the label, right? You could just say I don't agree. It don't necessarily mean I'm a coon. I only offered it because I feel like it's helpful. You get what I'm saying? That's the whole bottom line to it. You gotta create. You have to have an environment where people feel welcome to present their ideas, right? If we laugh at it, that's one thing, but to call you a coon would be like ostracizing you. Like now your opinion is invalid, unimportant, and that would be like the complete opposite of stimulating the conversation.
Oh yeah, anything that downgrades black people, I'm going to feel like is unimportant or irrelevant. But that's my personal opinion. Like I said, I'm allowed to have that, just like you are. You know what I'm saying? Because me personally, I would never say anything disparaging about Martin Luther King or any one of our elders that came before us, whether I agree with the way they did it or disagree with them. I would never disrespect one of our elders by calling them pseudo or any of this other stuff. I would never. That never ever is something that I ever do because I don't like disparaging black people. But when I hear other people do that, when I hear other people say, "Oh, well, based on my personal feelings, then such and such and such and such, like that person is a coon, or that person is a coon, or that person is a coon," like that's not what I'm basing it off of. I'm basing it off of if what you're saying is something that harms black people or is good for black people. And as an example, I would call anybody who will support Donald Trump a Sambo and a sellout and a coon. I would even refer to them as a coon. Why? Because the things that Donald Trump does is directly harmful for black people. So that would be the reasoning behind why I would say it. I'm not going to say it just out the blue just because I don't agree with something that you might be saying. Just like the brother Stupides was just speaking earlier, and we lightweight disagreed or whatever, but that's not going to make me call him a Sambo or a coon based on a disagreement. No, it has to be based on. Nah, I'm just saying it has to be based on how how you are basically making black people look, or how you are displaying black people. So if it's in a negative light, then yeah, I'm going to look at it as being a sellout or a Sambo. That's just like I said, and that's just me personally. It's not me trying to get everybody else to view you that way. That's just my personal beliefs on you or my personal feelings
But it is because it'd be impossible to have that stance and disagree with you in some kind of way, not fall into this category. So like it's all based on your interpretation of what's good.
Right. And I admit that. I'm telling you that
which would
directly,
make
that it's
you
based
the
on my
authority
interpretation.
on what's good for black people.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm the authority for me on what's good for black people. I never said that I speak for all black people when I say somebody's a sellout or a Sambo. I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for all black people. That's how I view you. Everybody else might not view you like that, but that's how I view you based on the things that you're saying or doing being negative to black people. I don't see a problem with that. Because I'm not basing it on anything else. I'm not like I'm saying I'm basing it on just the fact that I don't like you, or based on your accent or your voice or your complexion. Like I'm not doing any of that. I'm basing it strictly on the information that you give being positive or negative towards black people.
You're
And if it's
actually
negative,
oversimplifying it. You're actually viewing it from your limited understanding because it'd be impossible to know everything, right? You're
why would you want
actually
me to
viewing it from your
overcomplicate it?
limited understanding. Say
Why
what?
would you want me to overcomplicate it instead of simplifying it for you?
I'm saying you're oversimplifying it, right? Which means that you're actually missing you're missing some maybe key intricacies in it, right? So you did start off by saying I'm not the authority, and then you just returned to claim the actual authority, right? Some sort of a
No,
way you don't see that as problematic for you to tell me how I gotta view it. right? See, I'm just
I
offering
do.
ideas. I'm
I do
bringing an
know.
idea
But I
for us to
didn't
hash
tell you
out,
how you.
get to the
But
bottom of it,
brother,
figure out what's good about it, what's bad about it. Now, if
I
that's
don't think
all
you
it takes to
understanding
make you
though.
a coon, bro, everybody in
But
this motherfucker would be a
you're
coon if
confusing it
somebody
though.
disagreed with them. That's
You're
stupid.
confusing it though. That's why it was so important for me to oversimplify it, as you said, because you still confuse it. You still bringing it back to everybody. You making everybody. No, I told you this is my opinion,
How
and
did
I
you
told you
qualify to
what it's
be the
based on,
authority?
brother.
How did you
Listen,
qualify
listen
to
to what
be
I'm saying,
my
brother.
authority on
I
what's
can
good
answer
for
that
black
question.
people?
No problem. No problem. I can answer that question like I already did. I never said I was your authority. I specifically said it is based on my opinion. I've reiterated that 3 or 4 times now. So I don't know how it's hard for you to grab that concept. I am not trying to say that everybody else should view you in the way that I view you. That's not what I'm saying. And I've reiterated that, bro. So I don't know why we got to keep going back down that road if I'm literally oversimplifying it for you not to have to complicate it, which it seems like you would like to do. You want to make it more
Yeah,
complicated than it actually is.
no, but I'm actually not. I'm trying to get you. I'm more so trying to get you to hear yourself, right? I'm more so trying to get you to acknowledge that you're claiming to be the final gap, right? I'm the final
And you're
word on
wrong.
what is and
You're
what's not
wrong
good.
again. And you're
I
still
mean,
you're still missing the entire thing that I just said. Because you keep wanting to go back to that point saying that I'm
no,
the authority
I heard
on
you.
what
See that? I'm
everybody
not
has
trying to
to do.
attack you.
And that's not
I'm
what
more
I
so
said.
trying to show you, like, look, if this is what you're doing, it's not
But you're
it's
not.
not it's
Because
not
I've never
productive to
claimed
the
to be an
conversation.
authority for anything. I've never claimed to be an authority for anything. I've never
All right.
claimed that I am the consensus for all black people. There's not one time where I've made that claim. Yet you keep running back to it.
Well,
And
you
I'm
would
having a
have
hard
to
time
be in order
understanding
to
why.
properly label me a coon, bro.
No, I can
No,
label you a
because
princess
you
if
would
I
have
want
to
to.
be in order to make a statement like that.
No,
One
no,
No,
I
back.
wouldn't. I can label you a princess if I
what you
wanted to.
said?
Does that mean I'm saying, does that mean that you have to label yourself as a princess? Does that mean everybody else around the world have to label you as a princess? No. I'm telling you that's what I'm labeling you as.
He's saying that he is his own consensus. That he in his
Exactly.
life,
Press the
he makes his
button.
own final decision. He don't
I
have to do
got
with
the
anybody
power
else.
and the technology. See that, my nigga? I'm trying to just have a regular conversation with you, bro.
Yeah, well, that's what
I
he's
don't
saying.
know
He's
why
saying
you're
that
doing all this.
Doing all of
Let,
what, bro? I'm just talking to you, man. You okay? I'm just talking to you.
nigga,
I'm,
you
I'm
called me a
trying to
princess,
simplify something.
gang.
No, I did. I used that as an
he,
example, bro. I
I
wasn't saying
called you
that
the
you were a
authority on black
princess.
people, and then you called me the princess, my nigga.
he did
No, I
call
was
you a
using it
princess.
as an
So
example,
I'm
brother.
having a conversation with you about improperly labeling people, and then you will go on to
Oh my
label me a
God.
princess, my nigga. Like,
Yeah,
Use
you're being
use
petty
me
right
as an
now,
example, then see that. Use me as an example.
bro.
See that
Okay,
don't
okay,
really like
okay.
me. But that see that opinion. I see that opinion don't mean shit to me. My opinion don't mean shit to see that. That's what see that is saying. So my opinion is that um Chief X is not black. That's my opinion. And I would say Chief X is not black. But everybody else in the room can say Chief X is black. But I would hold to my opinion that Chief X is not black.
that can't be true. If my opinion don't mean shit to me, why talk to me, yo? Nobody make you come in here and talk to me. If my opinion don't mean shit, like that would be the whole reason that I would want to talk to you, because I value your fucking opinion.
Uh, so
Okay, so you
now,
want to know why I'm calling you a Sambo or a coon, then, right?
right.
You would want
Mm.
to dive deeper into it to figure out why is this
No,
brother
I
saying
heard
what I'm
you
saying
why,
is a Sambo or a coon.
and I'm explaining to you how useless that is. Maybe you're not agreeing with me, but I heard what you said. I
Okay.
heard what you said.
I,
All right.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah. You have to understand what logic is saying. That logic entertain you in his circle because he values your opinion. So if you call him a coon, you should be able to justify and have an open conversation with him. Are you willing to have an
Right.
open conversation with him? See that? As to
Yes.
why you call him a
Yes.
coon?
Anytime. Anytime. Which I
Then
don't
start
recall
now.
calling him a coon, but
Start
that's what I'm
now.
saying. Like we
Let him
that's what
defend
I'm
it.
saying. We're
Start
speaking
now.
about, but that's what I'm saying, Stu. We're only talking about hypotheticals anyway, because
Yeah.
the question came up from a hypothetical. I didn't call him a Sambo or a coon. I didn't call him anything. You know what I'm saying? So it came from a hypothetical. It was, if I call someone a Sambo, this is what I mean when I call someone a Sambo. So I was going from a hypothetical. It wasn't directed towards him. He just decided to chime in on what I was saying. So I don't. I'm hoping that he's not taking it as I'm calling him a Sambo or a coon, because so far today
No,
he
I'm
hasn't
not.
said anything
I'm
that I
not.
would
So
say a
so
Sambo
maybe
or a coon.
I'm trying to address the spirit of the conversation, right?
Mhm.
So my reason for even saying something, coming off mute, right, is because I really liked what Anathema said, because I believe that that's a conscious effort we're making to keep the decorum of conversation to where it's welcoming to people, new faces, new voices, right? We want new opinions. So if I start attacking new opinions, then that means I don't value the new opinions, bro. That means the whole time I just wanted somebody to swing on, right? I really didn't want somebody to have an intellectual conversation with. That's what I'm saying. Like the whole point of doing this at all is to get more opinions, to get better opinions, to have better ideas. And how are you going to do that if you don't criticize them? And how are we going to do that if criticizing them makes us coons? Right? We have to be
That's
able to
not what makes you.
criticize it.
No, no,
We
no.
have to
But
be
that's
able
wrong already.
to rationalize it and have our own opinions about it without us being painted as I am the enemy of black people. Like that's
Okay, well,
I
don't.
thought
But
I
you
was
should
very
make
clear just
statements
now.
that make you an enemy to black people. If you don't make discriminatory or detrimental comments towards black people, then you don't have that issue. Nobody's gonna come in here based on the way that you're trying to make it. It's like, oh well, you just disagree with me, so you calling me a Sambo or a coon, and that's not what it is. If I call you a Sambo or a coon, it's based on you saying something antithetical to about black people. That's it. It ain't got nothing to do with me just simply disagreeing, or you saying the sky is red and I say it's blue, and we going back and forth. That has nothing to do with me calling you a Sambo. Me
See,
calling somebody a
it'd be
Sambo, and
one
I'm talking
thing.
about me. I'm sorry. I just want to, I just want to make
It'd
sure
be
you
one
understand
thing.
clearly that it's based
No,
on what
I
you say
understand
about
it.
black people.
It'd be one thing if I've never spoken to you before, but you were in here maybe a week or two ago, screaming at the top of your lungs, mad at me specifically, right? Because I was talking about, I don't think it's a great idea to have a head-on collision with the American military. For that, you labeled me a bad black person, right? I didn't say your
No.
idea. Yes, the fuck you did, bro.
No, the fuck I didn't. You like mischaracterizing conversations, bro. And
But
it
that's what
seems
I'm
like
saying. So, in
you're trying
your
to
opinion,
like
you feel
you're
like it's a
literally
great idea to go
mischaracterizing
to
the
war with
conversation.
America. So, because I feel
No,
like it's a bad
no,
idea to
no,
go to war with America, now I gotta be a
no,
coon.
no. You're wrong. You're mischaracterizing the conversation once again, as
I
you
got it.
usually do. And that is the problem that we usually have, is that you mischaracterize the conversation and try to make it more lenient towards what you're saying when it's not. No, not one time did I ever say, "Hey, I want to go to war with America." That is not the conversation. That is not the content of the conversation that we had. The content of the conversation that we had was based on y'all saying that, oh well, in order to be a Pan-African, you need to do this. You need to go to war. You need to be directly against America. You need to be directly against this. And I said, why do you keep jumping to that? Why do you jump straight to going to war with America when we talking about Pan-Africanism? When we talking about making Africa somewhere that is capable of defending Black diaspora and Africans? Why would you jump straight to, oh well, you're gonna have to go to war with America and they're gonna do this, that, and the third? That is a defeatist mindset, and I would definitely call that a point of Samboism once you go into
See,
those frameworks
see,
without even
see. Just
actually
so that's just
without
because I
listening.
disagree with
Can
you.
I finish?
See that
You're not letting me
you
finish.
just proved
You're not letting me finish.
the point of
You're not letting me
everything I
finish.
was
No, I
saying,
didn't,
bro.
because
I'm
you didn't
done.
let me finish my point. You can't be done. You can't open thoroughly. And you never had a right response. It's always to the left of anything that's being talked about because I don't know where your brain goes when the conversation is had. You like to go into the most extreme cases of any situation and then try to break it down like, oh no, this is rational, this is logical. No, the fuck is not. You skipping 10 steps in order to get to step 15. That's the point that's being made to you on a regular basis, especially when I got up here talking about Pan Africanism. You went to the extremes and wanted to start talking about how, oh man, we'll never be able to do that. We'll never be able to go up against America. And you telling me you're going to go up against a nuclear bomb and da 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 da. I ain't even discussed none of that, bro. But those are the extremes that you have to go to in order to make your points. It's just not valid. That's all I'm saying. Without being long-winded.
All right.
But I guess since ain't nobody else chimed in, I keep going. No, but
You got it,
that's
brother.
literally I mean that's all I'm talking about when it comes to if I say Sambo, I'm talking about the weakness in your commentary at that particular time. It was all about gloom and doom. Oh, black people can't do. Well, Africa can't do. Oh man, y'all. Oh, nah. It's always that thought process that leads me into saying anything about somebody being a Sambo and that pro America stance. I want to do everything I can to enhance America, but to hell with the diaspora. I can't get with that. I can't understand that logic because at the end of the day, you're still a minority in America. So whatever you do in order to make this country great, you just making the same oppressors or the people that we know have oppressed us richer and more well off at the end of the day. While the people that look like you ain't really born, you don't really care about helping them, you know what I'm saying, uplift themselves. But then we'll still complain about not having power in the country that we're a minority in. So for me, it's an issue because it doesn't make sense. How can you get behind the banner of the place you know has oppressed the people that look like you and still do it to this day? That's a huge question. Matter of fact, that's a question directly to logic.
Say it again. Make sure I heard you right.
How can you support the same system? Okay, how can you be pro-American and support the same system that has oppressed your people and continue to oppress your people that look like you today?
That same system is also unfortunately working to our benefit at times too. We absolutely benefit from the colonization of Africa. To keep the gas prices down, stuff that we benefit that we use today here in America. I mean, so you can't. I also can't envision a world where African Americans, like not Africans, African Americans are able to have financial success void of the success of America. So, so to me, when you say that, you almost sound like you're not trying to get better economically. Like so, whatever it is you're trying to do, like the economics isn't necessarily in the forefront because you're so concerned with how that benefits America. So rather, I would say instead of being so concerned with how it benefits America, focus on how it benefits you and your family. But that's me.
Okay, so with that said, right now, how does it benefit me and my family, right? If black people don't control any aspects here in this country? How did I
How would it?
benefit my family by going to work and making money
Do you have
if
to have
at the end of the
control of
day,
anything in order to
No, no, no,
benefit?
no, 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 no. Better question. How would it benefit you if Africans had control of it?
Not on.
no, that's not that. No.
Well,
I
I'm
don't know
saying
how you
who
answer the
would be in
question. How do
control
you
of it?
answer a
Who would be
question
in
with a
control
question?
of it then, if not America? Who else would be in control of it?
Okay, who represents? How would you get your representation in America? Like, what is your perfect formulation for having representation in America? For making sure things go the way you would like them to go?
I don't know. What's yours? Yeah, this is definitely about your stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about. I just said. I keep saying economics and politics wealth gap. So I've said what I said a bunch of times. Right. I'm
Right. So
trying to
how
hear
does
what
that
you're
work?
saying
That's what I'm saying. How does that
because
look?
you've got a hold up. You've got a concept that I've never heard of before. Right. You're saying that
I
we
haven't
can
given
have
a concept.
economic success here in
I
America,
haven't given a concept.
void of
I haven't given a
America,
concept. No, don't
void
do
of
that. Don't do
America
that.
benefiting
Don't
from it.
do that, bro.
Yes, you.
Stop
That's
right
new. I
there.
ain't
Stop
never
right
heard
there.
that before.
Because I didn't
I've
say it.
never
It
heard
didn't
it.
come out of my mouth just now. I asked you a
Yes,
question. I
you
don't know how
did.
you got that from the question I just asked you, bro. Like
You
you literally make
listen
up
because you
scenarios
said
in
you
your head
listen.
when
Your
I literally asked
question
you a direct question.
in your question, and I answered you. I said I don't know. So in your question, you said how can we benefit from it when we're not in control of it, right? I said I don't know. So then I said, okay, how will we benefit if Africa was in control of it? You didn't
I
answer.
didn't say nothing
So
about
I'm
Africa
trying
being
to
in control of nothing. Because that was
no,
never
but
my
you
that
said
was
you
never
said
had anything
America
to
is
do
in
with
control of it,
anything.
and you spoke about it. You
You
spoke
kept saying,
about it. You spoke about.
I don't understand the density of your argumentation, bro. Like, because you're
I
trying to
answered your
argue with me
question, and I
about
asked
something
you a
without giving a
question.
clear. You didn't, because your only answer was I don't know. So I asked you,
What else
what
you
was
want me
your
to say?
way
How do I
in order
elaborate
to
on I
gain?
don't know, bro?
Asked you. So you don't have a logical explanation for what you feel like how black people in this country can progress, right? You
That
don't have
wasn't the
an
question.
explanation for that. You don't have anything for that.
That wasn't the question, and I said politics and economics.
Okay, so how do you gain representation in politics?
For first thing you would want to do is produce politicians, either produce politicians yourself or be able to buy politicians. Economics.
Okay, and what would be a logical path to take in order to produce your own politicians and get your own politics out there? What would be a logical path to take?
I mean, based on what I see in society, those political action committees seem to be an organized way of doing that. Yeah, the Pan Africans got a political action committee. I could join.
The density. It's so wild.
It was a question. I'm answering your questions.
You haven't answered anything for real. Like I don't understand this dance and shifting around and everything else. I
I
thought this
didn't
was
dance.
because
I
I never.
answered you straight
It,
up.
you didn't. You answered me in order to question me about what what Pan Africanism does for politics. Which that with the Pan African ain't got nothing to do with the conversation. I'm asking you a direct question about how you feel like black people can start this political progression that you're talking about, political and economic. So now I'm asking you questions about how to obtain that. I'm not challenging you. I'm not trying to compare. I'm asking you, what are your moves in order to get what you're saying we need? Politics,
Based
economics.
on what I see in the society, I would definitely start by copying what other groups do as far as political action committees. They seem to be a very organized way of doing that, purchasing
So is it
politicians and lobbying for their needs.
okay?
I
So
did
do
answer
we
your
do,
question.
do black people have a caucus in politics right now? The Black
The,
Congressional Caucus
the
exist?
Congressional Black Caucus you talking about?
Hmm.
Yes, they have them.
Okay, is it a way that you can be more involved with that in order to create what you envisioning?
I'm sure it is.
Okay, so would that be one of your suggestions that you would suggest to use going
Yeah,
through
that'll
the
be a great
Congressional
start.
Black
Wouldn't you think
Caucus in
so?
order to connect?
I don't see a reason why it'd be harmful.
Okay, so that's one way. I'm not, like I said, I'm trying to understand you. Is the reason why I'm asking these questions. I'm not asking them to be comparative. I'm asking you because you're giving your insight on what we can do as black people to go further. So politically, join. So getting more involved with the CBC. Anything else?
I think it's your turn now. What do you suggest?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm trying to understand you. I'm not in this right now. Take me out of this. I told you this is not a battle between me and you. I'm not trying to catch you in a gotcha moment. I'm trying to
Yeah, I mean,
actually understand
well,
what you're
that's fair.
suggesting for
Yeah,
black
that's
people
fair.
to do to
I'm
go
actually
forward.
not being guarded. I'm just being straight and direct. Like that. That's where I feel like we can do a better job of of creating a lane for ourselves in that particular area, because I feel like that's the area that will lead to the changes that we're looking for. That's how we end up with more people in hiring positions. That's how we end up with more, at least more of our needs being met through politics and lobbying. So that's how I see it, right? And it's still going to be a grind. I don't expect it to like change overnight, but that is the direction I feel like we could use more support in that.
And what exactly? Again.
Economics, politics.
Okay. So like, do you understand like is that there's been several different movements and actions taken, like um the civil rights movement, the there's quite a few of them out there, man. It's a lot of different um economic movements for black people that's been going on. Are you familiar with any of them? Have you like looked any up or anything like that? Any that you actually suggest? No. Okay. Guess not.
Logic, you muted if you try and talk.
All right, guys. Well, I got to get back to work. I'm listening. You know what I'm saying? If y'all going, if y'all have a different conversation or whatever, but I'm a mute for a while.
Yeah, what the people them did it? Where y'all go? Right now, my boy.
We was sitting here waiting for y'all to finish the conversation.
Me playing white people Ludi right now. Parcheesi.
Yeah, that conversation over with, man. Logic left, man. So, up to y'all.
I hate playing board game online, man. Bumble Clark. It seems like
Did y'all ever finish that
like you must cheat with the
philosophy
dice,
conversation?
man. Cause you know I'm used to roll a dice. I'm not used to this. So I cheat them, I cheat.
Did y'all ever finish that philosophy conversation?
Yeah, we finished the conversation, man. Conversation was nice, man.
What did y'all come up with? I had to go to work.
Oh, I thought it was correct.
What was the conclusion? You was correct. That's
I don't
funny.
talk things I can't argue, man. I don't talk things I can't argue. I'm doing.
That's crazy. The conclusion was I was correct.
I know I was talking about.
Yeah, but I said that from the get go. I said a lot of our issues is language and comprehension. You know what I mean? That be the biggest problem when it comes to tests and things like that. Because once it's explained to people, they be like, "Oh, I get it." You know what I mean? In a way that they could understand it. So it ain't the formula or the issue. I mean, of being able to decipher the equation or the answer to the question is the language that is spoken in. Like we speak in a very limited dialect and we understand in a limited dialect. You know what I mean? So Corey point, you know what I mean, about being worldly is dead on. You dig what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I was telling them about.
We just gotta do better at that.
That's what I was telling them about language register. And one of the problems, I taught literature. I taught. This was let me show you, this what happened. So when I taught AP literature, I had 2 block schedule class. That's 2-hour class. And you would take me for 2 years. So I had you for 11th grade and 12th grade because you was in the EAP program, right? But because of that, I had the smart students. In the afternoon, they gave me 2 bad class, like the worst of the worst, the gangbanger, the people that didn't want to learn nothing, you know what I mean? Because the teachers is like, he can't have all the smart students, and y'all leave us, you understand? So in the afternoon, I just had the most fuck up students in the school. And the problem was comprehension. And so that's what I stressed in the classroom, if you understand what I say. Like I used to big on that. And they used to bug out because of how I talk and this and that, but I would break it down the same way I talk. You understand? We read the standard. You understand? Because I did guided practice, so we read it. Then I wouldn't have a textbook. I wouldn't have a textbook, and we're doing like analogies or something, complex something. And I go do the answer. Maybe 90% of the chance I got it right. You understand? Because you still make mistakes. But when they would know, the students would be like, "Yo, Mr. Robbins, you're the only one that don't teach with the teacher book. Like you just teach and you're willing to make mistake in front of me." I say, "Well, I'm gonna explain, because once I figure out why I made that mistake, I make it again." And that's how you can learn a reverse, because learning is about understanding where you made mistakes. So then you are going to figure out where your comprehension is.
Tell this nigga he breaking up.
He's not breaking up on my end. I can hear him fine.
I never know if I was walking up. Forgive me.
Yeah, bro, that's your phone. Whatever you got going on, breaking you up. I can hear him fine.
Yeah, I can hear him fine, bro.
Yeah, so, and I used to stress to them about that. So I always said, even when I was having a debate earlier about the thing, I kept putting it on the chat, man, it's comprehension. Most of the thing is comprehension, even in mathematics. If you don't comprehend what the teacher's actually saying, you can't do the equation. You can't perform it. It don't make sense to you. You're going to guess.
Right.
So comprehension is very important when we start studying and this and that. That's why I always stress, like, because one of the things I told them, like, I used to watch my family, right? And my dad was a machinist. He was kind of smart, whatever. But when like anything standard in America, they're not watching that. He didn't start to really learn to do formal things to every day start come off work. I don't know who taught him this. He started watch 60 Minutes. And so I used to have to watch 60 Minutes with him. We watched 60 Minutes. And everything I standard English. And then he trying to understand. He got dictionary, all type of thing, because he trying to improve his dialect. He trying to improve everything about himself. Because he started realizing standard English was important. And then I started looking at it like, wait a minute. That has to do with comprehension. And then because I had good comprehension skills, I was lazy.
I think
I'm not even gonna lie, I was lazy in school. I did the bare minimum and still got by. I'm not
Right.
gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie about that. I didn't have to like work hard. Shit came easy. You understand? I graduated with a scholarship without trying. My teacher applied for my scholarship because she said, you're too smart. She said, you're too smart. And I graduated with like $10,000. And I had no idea. She applied for the scholarship, man. I never did.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
I think the
Wagwan. I appreciate your perspective, bro.
Yeah, big up, man. Respect.
And I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
bro. I went to private school for 7 years. I went to public school for 1 year just so I could play football. I definitely noticed.
and you still can't play football.
But I definitely noticed. You say what now? We take
gave up your education to play. You gave up your education to play football, and you're still a scrub. That's crazy. Niggas is crazy.
I would listen. The private school joints, we had basketball, but we ain't had no football. Like I wanted, you know what I'm saying? I was tired of playing rec ball. I wanted to play some school ball. So I went to middle. My 7th grade year, I went to public school and took my black ass right back to private school in the 8th grade. I was like, nah, I wasn't feeling that shit, bro. Yeah, I noticed the difference. But I felt like a lot of the kids during that 1 year of public school were it's not that I was smarter than them. It's just that they just weren't being taught properly. Like, and that's one of the things that I noticed then. Like comprehension, bro. Like them kids they just didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? Like you know how you used to get those little paragraph those paragraph joints where you read the paragraph and they'll ask you like 3 questions afterwards and shit. Like motherfuckers just could not. You know what I'm saying? Like they could not just grasp that concept. Like I don't know. Like the answer to the question is right there. Yeah, go ahead.
Small. You was you was smarter than them niggas.
Yo, watch this.
I wouldn't. No, I don't want to say that.
The first day in my class, when you do the reading and comprehension question, this is what I tell you. I say when you respond, you can't use the to be verb or because. Do you know only about 3 students reply when I say you can't use because they've been taught to take the question, turn it into a sentence, and put because. But when I say don't do that and don't use a is or any to be verb, none of that. No to be construction. The class sits there. And I say, how do I answer it? Because they don't even know how to make a statement, a direct statement. They don't know how to make a direct statement. They only know how to talk with is, like, and because.
Wow.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that curriculum and pedagogy has something to do with false-wise? Because like Corey even said, even the white people that he grew up around, right, got the same education. So is it a such thing? And then your family and your community reinforce your language understanding, right? So even if you're being taught one way in school, 90% of your and only your teacher is going to reinforce that in that classroom. In the hallway, in the cafeteria, in gym, you're going to revert back to your normal way of communicating. So it's not even is the time that is speaking correct English is not reinforced enough in your daily life, and for complex things like figuring shit out. You're not using that that language for that. You're using your basic vernacular, and you know what I mean. So I seen it when Brass was asking the questions. I'm like, yo, and then when they would explain it, everybody would understand it. But the question that was asked, they just didn't understand it. They didn't understand what the fuck was being asked to them. You know what I mean? So that's more of a comprehension problem.
That's why I gave a blind to the brethren, because he said there wasn't in a test and situation, which was true. So, and you was reading it, you're listening to it, and your verbal and like the question about the clock, right? For some reason, when I visualized it, I visualized 3:15 as 12:15.
Right.
Because my mind, because I didn't have a clock in front of me, and I was just thinking about the 15 part. I didn't even think about the 3 part. But the angle alone, if you had put that in your mind, how close the 3 is to the 4, right? You could have guessed between an angle of 6 to 12 degrees. Just a guess. Because the smallness of that, but the visualization was off in the question. That's why I said it's kind of fun, because you realized, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't visualize that right. And then you realize you had a problem when you did that, because you heard it verbally and you didn't take the time to even think about the clock. You wanted to jump to the right answer rather than process what was being said. You understand? Because you heard it verbally. You understand what I'm saying? They try to be the first in the class. So how I look at it is that thing I was telling you earlier, like you have a language register. And what I used to do is I used to make the test fun like that. I used to tell you, well, we're playing a game. The white people's playing a game with you. You think white people smarter than you? Well, if you think the white people smarter than you, then you should be asleep. Because they're not smarter than me. That's why I took this language. I used to tell the students, I said, when I went to college, I literally asked the people, I said, what the subject black people don't take that white people take? They say English and they say physics. And I told her, I always tell a story. I say, well, I'm tired of math. I'm good at math, but I'm tired of it. So give me an English class. And I go on an English program. And I was the only black male in all of my class. There are some black female, maybe 2 or 3 here and there, but I was the only black male all throughout the program. No other black male was in the program. None. And I was bugging out. Especially when I took the syntax class. And I really started to understand grammar. Like if you write something, right, I can tell you what every word is that in that sentence is doing. And I could do that on the test. But when we was doing the test, I wasn't doing it all the time. Sometimes I was jumping to the answer because I'm busy and I'm trying to come back and do this, and that. Like the one question, right, about the people on the board. I was like what Chef is saying. For some reason, when I heard the question, I came back with my colloquial mind. And I'm not even looking at the sentence. I'm just hearing a single person. But if you think about it, single is an adjective, modifying person. You don't need a person is already singular. So if you understand? And I recognize that immediately. But I hadn't thought about it but I know the grammar. And I know like if you know the grammar, you know that. Because person is inherently singular, so that single has to be adjective. But in your colloquial language, you might say, man, it wasn't a single person at the club. But you don't mean that it wasn't somebody that was not in a couple.
Right.
You understand? Because you're using it colloquial. You get what I'm saying? And that's the game part. And that's what makes it fun when you understand. You shouldn't be embarrassed or feel foolish. That's what I used to tell the students, like, what? Because once you make that mistake, you would never make it again. You will look at the word single from right now and different.
And yeah, Betty does have a point about the, about the environment, it not being a testing environment. Because for a few of the word problems, because I couldn't actually see and I was rather listening to the question, it was kind of throwing me off. You know, like if I would have actually seen the shit, like I would, yeah. You know, so he's right
It's
about
small.
that.
It's
But then
small.
again, that's playing the game with your visualization skill, right?
Excuses are tools of the weak.
Oh, there's no excuses because you can see when you couldn't visualize something. You can see when you misinterpreted the adjective.
I was trying to point it out when it was happening.
like
Both gotta look at the words. They gotta, and like a lot of them tests, they put you on a timer, and that like calculates the processing speed and all of that. So with certain questions that may stump somebody, and they gotta look over it, they gotta make sure they're in that environment to where they not anxious. You know what I mean? And the class, all of that shit is important. So I think a lot of them answers that was being given or the scores or whatever, if y'all would have calculated it, it wouldn't have been reflective. It wouldn't have been a reflection of if they would have been in a different environment. They probably would have did way better.
Right.
Oh, I agree with that.
Right.
That's why I said it was more like a game. Because you got some
Excuses
right,
are
you
tools
got
of the
some
weak.
wrong. But if you really listen, you understood why you got it wrong and you learned. Don't tell me you didn't learn why you got some of them wrong. And I know you want to make that mistake again. Like if somebody asks you about the angle of the clock, you're going to really visualize the clock and go in at that 30 second and this and all of this. You're going to do it inherently. Even if you don't know the math, you are going to do it. If somebody asks you about the half, and with that question, right, the divide, the verb, when they said divide by a half, that whole by a half is an adverb phrase, right? Modifying the verb divide. So right then, my mind should include to the mathematics of it. But I was just in the testing because I know what I did wrong. I know it. And then I was just in the testing mode of it, right? So I'm thinking the half is the half of the 30, when really it's just 0.5. It's what it is. They ask you to divide by 5 cents. Well, 0.5.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The question that
because you
the question
if
that
you, like, if you didn't know a fraction, right? You could have just multiplied that by 0.05.
Right.
And got the
yeah,
and added the 10, you got the same answer.
Yeah, like the question I know I would have answered totally different had it been in front of me was the how many threes. If anyone remembers that, like I know I would have answered that different if I'd have actually seen the question. You know what I mean? Because my first answer was 3, and then once Brass reread it, I was like, oh, you know, the word right was indicative in that in that question. You know, so had I seen the actual question rather than, you know, hear him read it, I not even probably, I know I would have answered that differently, you know.
And I still think my
this is
question,
embarrassing right
I
now.
still think my answer to the
I'm still mad that y'all ain't like my explanation. I thought I had a chance to one up Chat GPT and y'all ain't let me do it. So I'm off that.
No, it's no, Logic. It's not that I agree with what you were saying, but still, with the way the question was worded, like, nah, bro, you still nah. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
get
get what
your
you're
point.
saying, but
Get your point.
the answer in the answer it said
not again, not this shit again. Not this shit.
The question was for a number and the answer was digit. But it's all right. I'm leaving it alone.
Yeah, this is not this shit.
No, the question I thought that
I'd rather talk about.
I mean, if y'all want to go about the answer that she should have been mad about, y'all don't want me to go because I was upset about the twig, bro.
Nigga, you say twig one more
Nobody can
time.
see why I said twig, but you know what I mean. Like I don't get it. Like I'm mad about that. No, like you know what I'm saying.
I got your point. I see what your point was,
the only
Corey.
question I really didn't get a chance because I thought my answer was good.
Hey, but Fetty, I wanted to ask Fetty though.
At the door, and one lies and one doesn't, and what you would ask them. And I said, well, I would ask because you don't know which one is lying. That's why I thought the answer they gave was a little disingenuous to me.
Right.
I reversed it in the negative because I said which one is not the door to freedom, and the other guy lies all the time. So if I asked him which one is not the door to freedom, he would have to tell me the door to freedom.
Right.
That was the answer.
You understand you get the logic of what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, but that
Yeah.
was the no, but what I'm saying is I can't talk very
Because
loud. I apologize.
if he said the door to
He
freedom
said that
was not,
was the answer. I don't think that was the answer though, Brian. Like
No,
I
that
think he's
wasn't
on
the
the right
answer because
track, but I don't
I'm
think that
about
was the
to
if you
actual
tell.
ask
answer.
the, if you ask
But
the guy who's lying, he can still lie to you about the question. You get what I'm saying?
no, it's not.
He-
No, it's
I'm,
not.
I'm saying based on what he just answered, if you ask the person who's lying
Oh
that, he can
yeah,
still
yeah,
give you the wrong answer.
yeah. The answer
he always
is
tells the
if
truth. So if he pointed at the door, I mean, he always lies. So if he pointed at the door to freedom, right? And he
But
said
you don't know which one. The point was you didn't know which
You
one
don't
that
know which
always
one.
you
lied.
didn't know which
Yeah,
one
yeah,
always
yeah.
lies.
That's
You
where it got
you
me
just
at.
know
So I had
let
the
me
same answer. I
I
had the
thought it would
same
be better
answer
to ask it in the
until he
negative, but they asked it in the positive. They said,
no,
which
right.
one of you is lying? But then you don't get another question. So I guess that
no,
means the
just
one that's standing by that door. You know it because he's standing by the door? I guess. I don't know.
no, you know the only things that you know is that there's two doors. One leads to death, the other one doesn't. And you see one guard in front of one door and another guard in front of another. So that's why the answer to that. That's
Oh,
why
that's why
the
they asked
answer
it in
was
the positive.
right. Those are the only two things that you know. You don't know anything else. So it just says, what question would you ask? Oh, well, here's the thing. You know that one is a liar no matter what, and the other is going to tell the truth no matter what. So what one question could you ask either one of them? And then that's why the answer was what it was. It's more of a riddle to me
Yeah, that's
than
what
it
I
is
said though. But if
than
I
it
ask
is a question.
the one that always lies, right? If I asked him which one is not, he couldn't point at the one that was and say it's not. Because he
But
always lies.
you would have to know which one that always lies. You know,
Wait,
that's
lies,
what
right?
he did. Yeah, you would have to know which
The
one that
one tells
always
the
lies.
truth.
Yeah, so
Other
you
one,
No, but
know.
you're asking
so if
him to
I
Hold
tell
ask
the
on.
truth. If you ask
You
him
don't know
whether
that
it's not,
though.
he would tell me
Listen
the
to the
truth.
question. Hold on, listen to the question real quick.
Okay.
You're in a room with two doors. One door leads to freedom, the other door leads to certain death. So these is what you know. You don't know which door is which. There are two guards, one in front of each door. One guard always tells the truth, the other always lies. You can only ask one guard one question. What do you ask to find the door to freedom? The answer is ask either guard. Which door would the other guard say leads to freedom? So if you're asked, so that way, if you so happen to ask the one that tells the truth, he'll report the liar's wrong choice and he'll point to the death's door. If you ask the liar, he'll lie about the truth teller's correct choice and he'll also point to the death door. In both cases, the door will always be death. Just choose the other one. And that the piece of choose the other one is the part y'all not. I think y'all not adding it to the equation. The person's not going to give you the correct answer. They're just going to give you the answer so you can choose the other door.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm asking him the question in the negative. I'm saying which one is not the door to freedom? Because
Yeah,
one
but
that
see,
tells
in your question again, you would actually have to know which one always lies.
You don't know which one always.
You don't.
the
That
one
part you don't know.
I'm asking him a negative question.
Which one is you asking? Which one is you asking a negative question?
So if I ask him, I say, which one is not the door that is the door to freedom? So that's the door to death. So if he points at the door to death,
who are you asking?
Who are you asking that question to?
It doesn't matter because the other one always tells the truth.
But you don't know which one is telling the truth and which one is lying.
Right.
Because if I ask the one that tells the truth, right, which one is not the door to freedom, he's going to say the death door. That's not the door to freedom. So he's going to tell the truth.
But you
and
still
then when you
wouldn't
ask
know
the
what
liar, then when you ask the
one, I
liar,
put him in a negative question, and he's a negative response, right? He's always going to lie. He's always going to lie. So if I ask him which door,
they will both be given the same
and
answer.
he points at the door,
He's saying they will both have to give the same answer.
If he points at the door to truth,
Yeah,
he would be telling the truth. He can't tell the truth because that's not the door to freedom. That's the door to death.
I don't
They
know.
were both
I just know.
Either way,
know.
you would have to get both
Yeah.
of them to point to the door to
Yeah,
death.
yeah.
I mean,
Here's the thing.
And
I don't
and
care. Yeah,
his
it doesn't matter
question
to
was,
me. I just know
Yeah,
nation.
okay, I
Question
see
in
I what
negative.
you're saying.
Yeah, I get. If IQ is for nation building, then I'm going with Stu P's IQ because he got a lot of that shit right. So if his IQ must be pretty high. Because even with all the excuses, Smalls and Logic and all them niggas is given, Stu P's under the same circumstances. Stu P's under the exact same circumstances was answering them motherfuckers correctly.
And wait, I got a lot of questions right, so I ain't making no excuses.
Nah, you got a few right. You got a couple right.
Yeah, I got quite a few right.
Yeah, like two. I asked
To
30
my
questions.
ass.
You know, you got to remember that once you take them tests, those questions are similar. You understand? The questions might change in
Brad, how many did you get right?
Question, just
all
in a
of them.
different format. Or
None of them.
language.
I said all.
I got a lot of. I got
none.
Nah, I don't think I would have got any of them
I
right.
understood why you didn't get it right.
Yeah.
No,
But here's the thing. But you know what, Anathema, and I'm glad you actually, first time I get to hear your voice, but appreciate you coming to the Discord. But the funny thing about what's interesting is we talk about comprehension. So the weird part was when people would get the answers wrong, but then they wouldn't accept it. That would be the funniest part.
Because they're not trying to understand their mistake.
Yeah, like it was like, yeah.
And that's the whole
so
point of the
was
test.
weird.
Like the test is not there. See, that was what I used to do to my students, Bryce. I used to make my students be less intimidated by the test, like kind of treat it like a game. You understand? It's just strategy. It's just logic. If you just slow it down, because you know what I mean? You're taking an AP exam. You got, it's time, but you got hours. You understand? You can take a break. You can take a drink. Just slow it down and actually read what y'all read of your peers. And y'all gonna get a better score than trying to fight with the exam. And just
I know for a fact if I was able to read the test, I'd have been better. But I was working and listening. But for real,
Can you hear it now?
You are me.
Yes.
Sorry, Bryce.
My fault. No, I'm chomping at the bit. I thought you had been finished. My fault. It's my.
No, all I wanted to say is this: the main thing is when you like doing test prep. Say you do this with your child, right? They're not supposed to feel discredited because they got something wrong. They're supposed to figure out because you made like the logical mistake I probably made is not the logical mistake you made. But when the answer is explained to you, you're supposed to go in your brain and say, "Oh, I didn't know that single was supposed to be an adjective in that sentence." Damn. So that means that sometimes when I read, I misinterpret adjectives. So I need to fix that. I need to fix that personally. You know what I mean? That's a deficiency I have. And then the next time I take an exam like that, I'm gonna pay more careful attention to the adjective. You understand? Them type of
you never lose, you learn.
Yeah, you always
you never lose anything. You learn. You just learn how not
would
to.
Be intimidated by the test. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So by the time they went to the test, they were aware of the tendencies and the deficiencies that they personally had. You understand? And to be on the lookout for them.
You know what's kind of... Oh, go ahead, Logic. I ain't trying to cut you off. I was going to speak to something Chef said yesterday. Because Chef was the first one. Chef was the first one to mention that this is more of a comprehension issue than I think everybody in my house is sick. No. Chef had said it. No, hold on, Anathema. I'll fix it. No, I'm gonna fix this. You said it in the chat first, but remember, this is a continuation. I went live because you asked me to. We was already recording in the Discord the same a preview to this conversation that led to us going live. So we was live for about 3 hours. Well, we were recording for 3 hours. I stopped the recording and then we went live. So you were the first person in the chat to say it. But Chef has said earlier when he's talking about IQ that a lot of times it's not really an intelligence issue. It's just how we talk. It's a comprehension issue. How we talk to each other in different neighborhoods, how we deal with each other, how one thing might mean one thing, another thing might mean something else. And then when you go to take a test and they're trying to tell you that this means that, it doesn't match how you speak every day, your vernacular. So it gets a little crazy. You know, one thing like you and Stu Pease, I think in high school, I tell them all the time, I guess this would make me a coon too, but I tell them that they learned the King's English, and that the King's English is very different from the English that we might learn in a public school. So a lot of times how y'all pronounce words or how y'all know the actual meanings of words, we don't learn that here. The King's English is very different than just regular everyday middle school or high school English. It's just different.
But
so y'all
even
have a
if you
different
look that up,
understanding.
though, hold on. But even if you look at it, that's an excuse.
Facts. Hey,
Because even if you look that up, right?
Why not just bring an expert in psychometrics to
I
let
guess
you know
I could just. You didn't hear Chef talking, did you?
Hold on. Jamaica.
I'm joking. Go ahead. I'm joking. Go ahead.
One of those registers is academic language that doesn't deflect from your local dialect, vernacular, and all. But you gotta have an academic language register when you're in an academic setting, and you gotta know how to turn it on.
I agree because Jamaica, we can look up Jamaica's IQ score. You know what I mean? It's basically the same as African American. So there has to be even a language barrier there.
Where you get it from? You got that from Richard Lane? Who you get that from?
No, we looked that shit up. Remember we looked up Jamaica shit? When we looked up
I was saying,
Jamaican IQ scores, we
there's bright people everywhere. It's bright people in America. It's bright people in Jamaica, but that's not the typical person.
Black people was brought to Jamaica to do.
You gotta take into account.
Right, no, but black people was brought to Jamaica.
We just understand things.
God damn, I can't even get up.
Let him get his shit out.
Go ahead. Also, because I mean, if he's Jamaican, right, and they have a whole nother.
I apologize.
Like the way they speak and everything like that is always different.
It don't matter.
Like, how is that an excuse to say that? You know what I mean? Just because we have a different dialect that we don't understand the definitions of words. Like that it seems like an excuse to me instead of, you know what I mean, actually just saying, okay, well we can. I'm from the South. You know what I mean? I'm from Georgia. So it's a lot of terminology that we use that's different down here. But that's not an excuse for not knowing the definitions of certain words being used. Like, I'm still gonna call the dude stupid, bro. You dumb if you don't know the definition of that word just because, you know, we talk like this in the hood or whatever. Now, like I came up even, you know what I mean, in the streets or whatever, that was a thing. We talk shit about the dude that, you know, was just dead stupid and didn't know the definition of commonly used words. So I never saw it as an excuse to not know. You know what I'm saying? Like dialect and everything like that. I don't see that as an excuse to not know the definition.
Sometimes we gotta real quick off the subject, and I'm going back to bed. I don't feel well. Sometimes we do gotta remember though. These shows our broadcast on Carnivorous Podcast. When Chef is talking, just give him a little bit of deference, bro, so he can get his point out. Because sometimes it's shit. I know I get cut off, and I cut people off, but I try not to cut him off. So let him get his shit off, and then everybody kind of, jump in. Chef, you want to finish what you were saying, or no?
Hey, hope you feel better, Brad.
No, I'm not gonna. My whole house is sick right now.
Well, hope all y'all.
Yeah, this is gonna be a while. What it is, my son went back to school, and he brought home a doozy.
When the kids go back to school.
He said he brought home.
Yeah, when kids go back to school, that's when that shit starts.
Oh my God!
Came home touching everything, all the donuts, everything.
But just let me know when y'all want me to Let me know when y'all want me to stop the recording.
All
Or
right, go
matter
get
of
some
fact,
rest, man.
when y'all
This is
done,
why
just
I
go
wanted to stress this.
just go in StreamYard and stop the recording.
Nah, but
This is why I
for real,
wanted
bro.
to stress
Like this was a great conversation that we didn't record, bro. That's how I was like, man, we doing something. Like for real. The fact that we ain't gonna miss this conversation. It was a good one. But go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, I
no,
was saying that Jamaican, that when we looked up Jamaican IQ scores, it was similar to, African Americans. You dig what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is they was brought over here for the same reason as us, to be workers.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You don't get the same you know, you was brought to understand to basically to take direction, right? That's as far as our educate, and then I'm talking about within our neighborhoods and our community. That's where we really learn to speak at. You don't really learn to speak in school. Like we gotta stop saying, like, you know what I mean? All of us went to school. We didn't learn to speak in school though. Your community and your neighborhood reinforces the language more than fucking school do. Yeah, y'all don't. Am I wrong?
No, yo, can I tell you something, Chef? Can I chime in with you? I'm not gonna long winded, but I give you an example. Once again, I taught literature, I taught English, so this is, you know what I mean? I'm a perfect example, even though it's quite anecdotal, but it's a professional setting. And it's, you know what I mean? I got data for years, qualitative, quantitative, whatever. But just, you know what I mean? So some of these conversations, when you say a certain thing, I can reflect on it. So anyway, what you just said was important. And I used to tell the students when they come into the school, you already know how to talk. Like, you're not coming here for me to teach you how to talk. What you're coming here to learn is what you're doing when you speak compared to the standard language. So now you can understand why, like, when you break up your sentence and you speak the way you speak, right? If you wanted to reconstruct that and put it in a normal sentence, you could do it very easily and grammatically correct. And it wouldn't devalue your language. Like I told you the other day, I had some poem in dialect and he read a piece of the poem. And then I said, explain it. He couldn't explain it in vernacular, even though we would all know what he meant, but it wouldn't make sense in an academic setting. So he immediately switched to standard American grammar. You understand? So when you come to school, I'll tell them you already come with a noun, a verb, a subject, an object, a dependent
Preposition.
clause, an independent clause.
Yeah.
You're using these things, you just don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come here, I'm literally teaching you what your own language is about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on. And I used to laugh at them because they would be like, yo, she's Mexican and she's fell in Spanish class. And I'm like, you fell in English. Do you mean they don't know the formal language either? Why for you think they gotta go to Spanish class? Because they don't know the formal, they don't speak the formal language. Well, what is this assumption y'all got that because that lady is French, she speak the standard grammar of French? She probably speaks some broken dialect from some fucking France, and you just think she sounds smart because she have a dialect. To you, an accent to you. But what you don't understand is that when you're in school, it's not to learn what you don't already know. It's to understand what you're doing
What you're
with the
doing,
language.
yeah.
That's why you got to learn the fundamental structure so you can understand how you deviated from it, how you created your patois or your ebonics or your dialect, this, and that. That's what happened. And then you got more of appreciation and a deficiency syndrome.
But I do kind of get what Chef is saying though, to a certain degree. And that's only because I was, a lot of my family were educators. So there's certain shit that I just wasn't allowed to do at home. Like I wasn't allowed to say I ain't got no. Like my mama wouldn't even acknowledge shit. Nigga, I don't have any. Like I wasn't allowed to say that. like I wasn't allowed to use bad English at home. You know what I mean? I could only, talk slang or whatever when I left the house. So I get what he's saying. Like you do kind of learn how to speak. Like somebody's got to put that shit or teach you the right way outside of school, though.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I say the
Yeah.
primary language register is your
Oh,
mother first, then your home
oh,
environment, then your friend's environment, right?
Hey,
I tell you when I used to get. I tell you when I used to get all the time too. If I was to look at my auntie or my grandmama and say, "Where's the remote at?" They would respond to me behind that preposition. That's the response I would get. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I got that shit drilled in me at home.
hey,
Because
but Smalls,
because
when you said
you're not
when you
supposed,
said
they were taught you're
your
not supposed to
you
end
shouldn't
sentences.
say I ain't got no right. I
Uh
used to
huh.
like I had an my English teachers like she would be on all of us, like even like I said, the white kids, she would even be on them about like the way they would speak, right? But I always thought like when she would correct me, she would always like if I'll be like, she'd be like, pull out a loose leaf sheet of paper. I'd be like, yo, I ain't got no loose leaf. You know what I'm saying, right?
All right.
She'd be like, I ain't got no. She would say that like out loud in front of the class, like, but I would think like, man, that's racist as hell. But no, what she was doing was just basically trying to get me into the habit of using
Right.
the proper term, the proper English. You know what I'm saying? The proper grammar and shit. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I was
But
completely
that just
different.
reminded me of that. You know what I mean?
I was completely
Mm,
different. I allowed you to talk in class, like we talk in between the lesson. You could use any vernacular you want, any slang you want, as long as you ain't profane. But when in lesson time, you got to switch. Like when I ask you to go to
okay.
that board and express your sentence, it better be clear. It better not have one grammatical mistake. The comma better be in the right place. All the
Mhm.
punctuation marks, all the capitalization, everything better be on point. And you can turn around and say, "Ain't this good, Mr. Robbins?" And I'll be like, "Yep."
Right.
Because I know the different language registers, because now you're demonstrating to me that you understand the fundamental grammar, but you're comfortable enough with me to turn around and speak to me like a real person. You
Right.
understand what I'm
Okay.
saying? And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how I ran the classroom to where the students bought
Okay.
in.
Okay.
But we
Yeah.
understood this all the way back in the 70s, right? This brought up if you are familiar with the what's the show? Good Times, right? Michael was making the same argument, right? The son, the little militant, the smart one, right? The one under JJ. Y'all remember him, Michael, the militant
Yeah,
midget.
the yellow one.
Yeah, the militant midget, right? So look, one of his friends was having problems in school, and they was calling him stupid. Now Florida started tutoring the little boy, and she realized it was a language comprehension problem, right? So when the teacher and them had came over, and they were sitting there quizzing the little boy, you dig what I'm saying? He was getting the shit wrong, and he looked it crazy. And then she came over and rephrased the questions and how they spoke in the projects, and he got all of the shit right. You dig what I'm saying? So black people were trying to say that even back in the day, like, yo, if
Hmm.
we speaking different, you know what I mean? Like, it ain't that y'all can't figure out the equation. He ain't even, y'all speaking foreign to him. He don't even understand what the fuck y'all saying. Like that
Right.
shit, like TV shows back in the day used to do a lot for us. You know what I mean? Like we need to go back and see that black people already done figured a lot of this shit out. That we acting like, you know what I mean? Like we starting over at ground zero again. Like, nah, yo, black people, you know what I mean? We ain't just
Niggas
figuring
been
this
knew this
shit out.
shit. Yeah.
We knew this shit. But yeah, that was a good episode, man. Like, even it was a good episode one time where one of the little kids in the neighborhood was deaf. and they kept calling him stupid and everything else, but he was actually deaf. You dig what I'm saying? Do y'all remember that episode?
Nah, I don't remember.
Oh man, y'all, where was y'all at growing up? Y'all don't know about that time?
Now we know about the gooch. That's what we know about gooch.
And the gooch. That's different strokes. The gooch was on different strokes. He used to bully Arnold and Dudley.
Yo, before we get off this conversation about education, I got one more anecdote I want to tell y'all. This, my days as substitute. Before I got the AP class and all of that, when I first started district. So I'm a substitute teacher. So I'm going out of class, it's a math class. And you know, say me a literature major, but me smart, me good at math. Me not gonna lie, but some of that stuff, I only want to know it when it's time for, not gonna lie about that. I'm not gonna lie. So how some people feel about grammar. So I'm not gonna lie about that. But me know I'm math. Maths is easy for me. So I'm going out of class. And the teacher done left a test. So when I pass out the test, then here, we give everybody a test. I'm like, yo, y'all gotta take a test. So nobody, like even the people in the front row, the people that look like they know what they're doing out of this math class, nobody turned the test over. They just they're like, yo, Mr. Aman, we don't know how to do it. I was like, what? I turned the test over. It's adding and subtracting matrices from the matrix, matrices. I'm like, oh shit, damn. I said, hold on a second, y'all. So I started reading the book. I said, well, fuck that. Turn over the paper. This man that fuck up the test. None of y'all know how to do this? All right, this are the first step. Boom, 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 boom. I started put the first example on the board. I was like, all right, now everybody, I got who gonna do the first step? Yo, we did the whole test, right? They called me to the office. Yo, the next day they called me back and they said, how did I said, we did the test together and they learned how to add and subtract this bullshit that you was giving them and you never. And he said, he just looked at me. It was a white teacher too. And it was a black principal. And he stormed out the class. Well, that was. And then the black principal name was Miss Kidd. Miss Kidd looked at me and she was like, oh, baby, you really came to teach, huh? I was like, yeah, I came to teach. She was like, get out of here. You ain't got no thing. He was like, we trying to fire him anyway. And I just left the office and went on about my D or whatever. But yeah, like it's almost like a certain way that if you explain things to the black youth, and it don't matter what subject you're teaching them, smart, and you can go in and learn it and do it with them, they are going to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to learn it. And them youth there, I know they use all of that now. Because they understood what a matrix was, matrices. They knew how to add and subtract them. They knew how to put all these three different things in these little categories and follow the mathematic principle. I really didn't remember that shit. I'm gonna say I didn't know nothing about that shit. I did it before, but I didn't retain that shit. But when it was time to do it and teach them, let's do this. It's nothing but a game. And that's what you got to do with this learning. Like, you can't be defeatist about it. Because whatever they're learning, like even when I read Shakespeare to them, this is a game. We learning how to analyze literature. We're not reading. This is the point we got to read. We got to learn about poetic devices. The same thing you use in other rap song. That's how we doing. So you got to learn about the couplet and the tercet and the internal rhyme and the double entendre. You're going to get all of this. That's how we doing.
Nigeria.
Most teachers would tell you if you just try to maximize your potential in math and all of that, that trickles down to everyday decisions in life and knowing to apply logic, rationale, and shit like that. I've heard plenty of teachers tell me that. I even heard Neil deGrasse say that. Like, when you become literate in certain just subjects, and the more and more you work on it, that translates to your everyday life. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's tricky. It's tricky because like, also there's evidence coming out that people from different cultures, right, use their brains differently to solve the same like visual perceptional task, if that makes sense. Take
How you
race out
mean?
of it.
Oh
Like,
yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it make
like
a lot of
it's coming from neuroscience studies. Like they saying that people from different cultures can look at the same problem, right? And based off, the data that they got, they're saying that, depending on what culture you come from or whatever, you could solve the same visual perceptual task in different ways by using different parts of the brain.
Okay.
the
This
Chinese
brother,
do it.
this brother
You're
sound
exactly right. The Chinese do it all the time. I'm
okay.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna
Oh,
give you
one more thing. One quick shout out to you, Crisis. Because you sound a lot. No disrespect, but you sound so much like my aunt right now, bro. You know what I'm saying? The way you were saying that you was teaching your students or whatnot. My aunt did the exact same thing. Like I said, I'm from the deep south. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I was born in Augusta, Georgia. But everybody thought that I was too proper, especially when I came to Atlanta, because my aunt and my mother and all that side of the family is from New York. So they all have a very, very proper way of speaking. So I wasn't allowed to speak with my country, my natural country grammar. I wasn't allowed to speak around them because they didn't understand it. So they'd be like Greg Day and what I mean, Retro Ryan and all them type of little, country type of terminologies I wasn't allowed to use around them because they didn't understand it. So I was always forced to articulate and use my, pronounce my T's and my P's and my S's and all that type of stuff based
Right.
on just that alone. I just wanted to give props to bro for doing that with his students because it helped me out a whole lot.
Oh yeah, because my whole
For
thing was
sure,
keep.
bro. I appreciate your perspective too, bro.
I'm
The
like,
fact that you in the field actually know shit.
teach you, and sometimes I slip in. The favorite thing they used to be if it was page like 3 or 33. About 5 people be like, "What page?" Because they just wanted to hear me fuck up them words. You understand? And laugh. And it was okay because I used to tell them like, "Okay, whatever, that's cool. Y'all got me. You got me. I understand what y'all do because it's all right. As long as you understand the standard, though. Can you perform in the standard? When it's time to present, I don't care about how you accent the term. Is it grammatically correct? Is it not gonna have a mistake? So if you want to say automotive instead of automotive or whatever, like however your American look line and that, or you're supposed to sound like the white people. You need to stress this and stress that. No, you're grammatically correct. We understood you. You spoke in your closest understanding of the standard vernacular. So good. Do what y'all do. You got it in. Good presentation. Big up on yourself. I don't want you to come up here and sound like Becky or sound like the white lady upon the news or the black lady upon the news. Sound like Uno. Just do it correct. When it's time to do it correct. And then when it's time to just be you, be you.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's how I taught. That was always my message. So even when I had, like I told you, I had the bot class. Yeah, what's up, blood? What we
So, a
doing today?
question, bro.
What's next,
A question, my
Hogwarts?
man.
I'm
I
gonna go to the
remember
set.
me and Chef.
Y'all don't do the homework. Shit like that, I tell him.
Hey,
Mr.
Chef, you
Robbins,
listening?
the set. I'll be like, yeah, man, we going to the assignment. I'm going to the set in front of OG.
I'm here.
I'm not reading Shakespeare. I talk to
Hey,
them
Chef.
like that.
Oh,
They're
my
gonna
bad.
read the
Keep going.
Shakespeare. You understand? Because you got to be able to communicate and let them know that they talk is valuable. The way they understand is valuable. You can't deflect them and make the standard more important than them. The standard is something you just need to learn and be able to use like a tool. It's not something that define you because you can't.
And that's a bar right there.
That's crazy.
Hey, Chef, you don't remember when we was talking
ahead.
about Ebonics? You remember we was talking about Ebonics like 3-4 months ago, and how like in the 90s they was trying to express the importance of the black child, not, you know what I mean, like not discriminating against it. You don't remember that? We had that conversation.
I remember.
Yeah, I got to look back at that. I wanted to see if y'all knew, because I wasn't like, I was born in 95, but I watched the documentary dealing with that and how that was a big deal. I was seeing if any of y'all could elaborate on that time of like Ebonics being introduced to the classroom and how a lot of black people
most
didn't
parents,
even like that.
most parents, like my parents, they rejected that. You dig what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
Yeah, most parents at that time, that was more of a what you call one of
Political.
those political things, a liberal thing that you know what I mean, where most black people understood the usefulness of having a good education and speaking correctly. Even if they did,
Mm-hmm.
even if our parents didn't speak correctly, they wanted us to speak, you know what I mean, correctly. They understood that that shit was a hindrance in greater society. You know what I mean? Ain't wasn't nobody really with that shit. So a lot of things can be pushed by, you know, political liberal. They could be thinking they doing us a service, but that don't mean that, you know, most black people, like I said, got more conservative leanings towards shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And everybody,
most parents during that time looked at it like, what you trying to say? Like we're stupid or something?
like we can't
we
teach
can't
our kids regular English. Yeah,
right,
it was
right.
crazy.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's why I'm trying to explain to the youth what came out of that was one thing is that the dialect literature that used to be frowned upon was reincorporated into curriculum. I can show you textbooks. They got, you know, Uncle Remus and Brer Rabbit stories, and all of those are dialects. Before that wasn't in our thing because it embarrassed me, because it wasn't standard English. It wasn't treated as art. But and then kind of what I told you, like, okay, I understand your language. That whole concept about language registers came into the vernacular of pedagogy, and then people was able to allow and respect the different language registers while emphasizing mastery of standard English, standard grammar. And that's what I did in the classroom. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Is like I allowed the students to be themselves and have their bonics or their patois. I had a lot of Jamaican and I had some Belizean students and some students from St. Croix. Because once people found out I was in this doing this program, a lot of people sent their children to this school just to be in the EAP. So it was kind of a diverse.
Well, you had mentioned Paul Laurence Dunbar, right? And the Harlem Renaissance, and that's what they was known for. That, you know, their mastery of the English language and prose and how they could switch in between vernacular. You dig what I'm saying? They could speak African American vernacular in their writing and then switch. You know what I mean? They could do both. That's why, like.
So where did code switching originate from? Is like a bad thing. Where did that originate
I don't know, but Paul Laurence Dunbar, people like him.
Code switching is when
hold on.
from? All right. My bad. Go ahead.
If you would look at people from the Harlem Renaissance, the writers in particular, like Zora Neale Hurston and them, right? They wrote in African American vernacular, right? And if you read it now, even if you took an African American literature course, that shit is hard as shit to read. You feel me? When somebody, if you ever heard somebody from the deep South speak, you think what I'm saying? Like that shit is hard as fuck. You know what I mean? And Zora Neale Hurston and them used to speak. They used to write in that shit. You dig what I'm saying? And you can actually study it now. And they break all that shit down the way Anathema is saying. You know.
Hold on, Chef Ron. When you rewind the show, what did I tell you the other day on Psycho Show? I had someone read. Y'all can read this poem too. It's a very beautiful poem. It's called Plantation Portrait by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Because he was arguing for there's no need to master grammar. So he said, we could just communicate in the way we speak, right? So I brought up the dialect poem by Paul. I said, read it. So he read
couldn't
it.
understand it.
Then I told him, I said, explain it. You know, to explain it, you have to use, right? Standard American grammar. He could not explain it in vernacular anymore because it wouldn't make sense. He couldn't. Because you didn't understand what you said was the hardest thing for read, because you have to translate it to understand it. You have to retranslate it, right? Don't you, Chevron?
Yeah, you do. You translate while you
grammar,
read,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can say, "Oh, we say this way nowadays," right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's why I had to interrupt you, because I literally demonstrated that to somebody. And that's why I tried to express that literature was brought back into the curriculum where we could teach it and we could show that skill that they had. So I'm so glad you mentioned him. Yo, I'm so glad, man. Big up yourself, Chef Fry. Because you are
Yeah,
correct.
they all used to write in that, you know what I mean? But they could write in standard English also. So you can see
Oh, they're
that they
supposed
used it as art form. You dig what I'm saying?
to. You're
Mastery,
correct.
and you still study it.
I can tell you this much, and that's my you was a dope ass teacher, bro. You still teach now?
I was teaching in Zayex, but I quit last year because
Oh
of
man.
because I over the hip hop Puerto Rican thing, and then Lance, I'm gonna tell you the full story because I don't, decided it's not even a big thing because it has nothing to do with whatever is going on now with them. That's not why I quit the school. So just clear that up. It was first it started with the Puerto Ricans in hip hop team, and I took the side that Bronx is diverse, and you needed a diverse community to create hip hop. I don't care what if it wasn't diverse, if they wasn't walking around these streets hearing all these different rhythms and access to all this different music to sample, and I went through the Puerto Rican samples, the non-James Brown samples, the original break beats was not dominated by Black American music. It was all different types
Right.
of music. And we had a big argument. They like, oh, you were Puerto Rican. And so then one day Lance went on the panel and Achilles jumped on the panel. And Achilles from Congo, but he live a British boy, but he live so Lance started disrespecting. He pulled up a picture of a Congolese woman, started disrespecting her phenotype based on her forehead, and this and that. So I didn't appreciate love that. So then I hit the link, and I started cuss out Lance. I mean, just start cuss Lance, and now the Nicola come about Lance off to him lead the panel, and then me just start thinking about it. Let me say, yo, be all this tether talk. One of y'all that's a mastery of English literature and did what I was doing when I was, and I was still hustling. I was still part of Jamaican community. The whole of the time to go to school. The whole of the time I teach me, I ain't out the streets. So me don't want to hear that. So when I was 26, I went in the classroom to help Black people of any complexion, any color, any nationality, for help them with the skill that I acquired. Where were you? I said, one of y'all need to step up and come out of school and teach. Because I too much tether talk. I mean, left. And that's why I'm left.
Right. Okay.
And then we started beefing after that because you start saying certain things like, yo, I didn't want to be here. Things, but you really didn't mean. Tell them to teach the school. Why none of them step up? All them some people got offended.
Yeah, well, that's a shame.
I didn't
That's a
expect
shame
the
that.
pedagogy in the first place, which I regret because I helped build the pedagogy.
Right.
But I said all of these things because we was mad. You understand? Ain't like I was saying, fuck you, kill you. We just arguing about the school and who contributed and who didn't, things like that. And it just got too
Right.
heated. And since then, because what happened is I retired around 2013, 2014, I retired. In 2016, I was in the back shot. And Garfield in them old channel back in the Google Hangout did them something there. And Cuba they hit the link and he was talking about teaching. And I was like, wait a minute, I've been retired like 3 years talking about the school. So I hit him. Then for a whole year, I guess he never looked on the email or whatever. So then we linked up again in the next back chat. And I'm like, yo, man, what happened to you, man? Send me email, school and teach you thing. Say I'm a real teacher, man. Help you curriculum and structure on standards and really school and develop a real curriculum. And he was like, what? Right. You hit me? So I was like, look, man, I'm going to send you my email again and my number. Put it in the back chat. And I guess he went and checked his email. He was like, oh, yeah, you up. And we spent the whole, maybe 6 months developing the curriculum, arguing, fighting. Because at first, there's no offense to my brethren. They didn't know nothing about standards. Because he never taught. He just wanted to teach Black people. And he had a vision and he had a will and he had a space. And I said, okay, we got to make this legit. Well, we got to make this statewide standard. He was like, what standards? We don't need standards. That's the white people shit on RBG.
Oh. Oh, don't.
Like
Oh,
no,
say that ain't so.
if we're going to do this, we got to do it right. We got to, I don't care what standards we use, but our standards have to be, and we can incorporate it, rewrite them, but they have to be accepted and consistent and equivalent to the other guidelines set by the nation and other states. Examples, the same way I tried to explain to him, the same way you got law. Like you go to different
Right.
states, you got different law, but it's kind of based on the same principles of law. Well, that's like our standards. So we got to have standards for literature, standards for this. So at this grade level, this, and that, we're teaching this, we're teaching that, and this is consistent with this standard, which corresponds to New York standard this, California standard that, Virginia standard that, Georgia standard that. We spent like 6, 7, 8 months arguing about this shit every day. Like Q on my bed, drink. And that's why when people's coming at the school like a scam.
Yeah, see, I be defending.
Because I don't know nothing about the financial part of it. Because I'm not gonna lie, I
Right.
don't know about that part of it. But I do know what we did to make it substantial, and how we and that what we did to get the grade links. What we did
So
to
at
get
this point,
we had a Zoom account in 2017, 2018 before the pandemic. We were already
well, let me ask you this: at this point in 2025, is his curriculum up to par with you know? Would I be? Would you say you'd be comfortable?
I can't tell you. I can't tell. I'm not gonna lie. I can tell you
Oh
what I
shit!
did from the time I was there. I can't tell you
Oh
what happened
shit!
from my left to this point. I just can't.
But when you were there,
Yeah,
it was okay. It was good. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
I was trained in the AVID program. This is how I got into the AP teaching team. Because I was they sent me off to this AVID program. This lady had created this shit where you create this portfolio. She had all this portfolio and paperwork that, you know, deficient or at-risk students would take this program and it would improve and, you know, supplement their English learning or regular English program, but account for their learning deficiency. So I went to this shit. But me being who I am and just the way I think, I'm like, but what is that? Like, that's not you. That's just what is that portfolio? I asked the question and she said, oh, well, this is called a PSG. I was like, what's that? She said, personal student growth. This is just my version. I said, your version? I said, so that means that anybody can do a version of it. So I went and I started research that in pedagogy. I researched PSG portfolio, personal student growth portfolio. I immediately left the AVID program and just adopted out and created my own PSG pedagogical system. And what this means is that the student comes in and from day one, they have to keep a portfolio, whether digital. I like a handwritten one because, you know, digital you can feel. But in my day, it was handwritten. And from the day you coming out of class, every assignment I grade or you do in class goes in your portfolio. I don't keep it. If you lose it, you fail. Literally. If you lose it, you fail. Now your parents have a whole projection of your learning. So if you came into class day one and you could barely write the sentence, 6 months later, your parents should see the struggles you went through to be able to write the complete sentence. And that's your personal student growth. And what I'm grading you on is, did you end up mastering the complete sentence? Not did you fail the first assignment. Not did you fail the second assignment. When in your portfolio did you show mastery of this standard? And it took you 6 months. Okay,